All right, we are here. Welcome back to day 2. Really, it's like day 5 at this point, I think,
yeah,
right?
it's day 2 of the second weekend.
Yeah, today we are continuing the Knights of Terror DBD Mobile Tournament today. There is a lot of stuff that we have come to expect over this tournament that we get to break down for you. A lot of high-octane plays. My name is Dylan. I've got way too many hours in this game, and I'm joined today.
Don't we all?
Yeah.
I'm Steven, a longtime DBD community member, been playing since 2019, and I also have far too many hours in this game.
Yeah, really. So today we're going to be looking at just furthering the bracket before tomorrow's grand finals and losers finals. So today's going to be really, really interesting to dig into this bracket. We've had a lot of really interesting things change across it, but really today it boils down to RSK versus Endgame, both incredibly competent, capable teams, and 4 AM versus Rarity. So these are really the two we're looking at. We're looking at a best of 3, which means that we are going to cycle at minimum through 2 different maps. And we also have some other lovely rules, killer bans, things like that, that are going to come out in play as well.
Yeah, so at the way that each individual match is sort of formatted is you have basically each team, the teams will pick a map and then ban a killer for the other team that they are not allowed to play. So in this case, we are seeing for our first match of the day, which is going to be RSK versus Endgame. Both teams have banned Billy, for example.
Yes, so the other team can't play that.
Yeah, because Billy on mobile, as we have seen, is an absolute demon.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, not to talk down about the other demon we're probably going to be seeing today.
Yeah, we'll see him a lot today. So, all that being said, though, I mean, yesterday was an incredible day leading into today. Let's take a look at some of the highlights from what we saw yesterday. Because of the Billy ban, Billy doesn't fit into those highlights very well, but we are going to be taking a look at killers like Nurse and Spirit quite a bit. And honestly, this was kind of our first, I think our only nurse for the day, really.
Yeah, we haven't seen very many nurses.
Yeah, so this was the incredible pick we got on the ace here, getting the grab on the unhook right as the bar almost filled up. That almost sewed that match up for that nurse.
Yeah, the survivors were able to do a really good job of diffusing the pressure you would expect from those 2 hooks in the basement.
Yeah, the Spirit doing a really good job. This was obviously, I think, 4 AM playing as Survivor, but Mr. Phoenix on the Spirit here is a really good Spirit, got some really commanding plays. And then this is the Huntress game.
Yeah, bringing out the Iridescent Head, because again, the killers could bring either 1 Iridescent add-on or 2 add-ons of any other rarity. And yeah, that Iridescent Head just doing so much work. And then yeah, the frame-perfect Dead Hard coming out to deny that down directly into that sort of pallet drop prompt. And then the game sense from the Oni, this was a little bit of context here. He had sort of come to that area without any information, but recognized that the ace was going to be hiding in that corner. Yeah,
there's a lot of great stuff we saw from Oni, some really good textbook plays, and I believe we see the end here. This was a tight match. All the generators got completed. The Oni really just popping off in the very last second, both teams being incredibly consistent. And of course, we have our Wraith match playing the old Eruption Call of Brine card.
Yeah, I mean, those are certainly some perks that'll help you lock down those 3 gens if that's your game plan.
Yeah, the Survivors really played that incredibly patiently. I think RSK has shown their mastery of going against a multitude of different strategies as they did not break. They were so patient and so consistent in countering that technique.
Yeah, that was a long match, and the Survivors did a great job to maintain that discipline, to play it safe, play it smart, don't throw.
Yeah, I mean, see here, a pallet throw against a nurse, a dead hard juke.
Yeah.
Kind of, I think the only pallet we've seen really thrown against a nurse this entire tournament here.
Yeah, it really is one of those situations where throwing a pallet when a nurse is right in your face, that's a desperation play.
Yeah, that is real dicey. And of course, you know, we saw 4 AM again going up against this Spirit that really...
Oh, this read was phenomenal.
Yes, I mean, getting this tuck right here. And I think it was a juke almost. You see them tuck outside and then dip right back in across the pallet here.
Yeah, and that was actually, I think one of the big elements of that was the Strider, too. Hearing the atoms healthy breathing through the wall of Shack.
And we do see this. This was actually the first time we've ever seen Coal Tower, a Macmillan map, on Dead by Daylight. And unfortunately, it was a hag match that just did not go in their favor. And, you know, we've seen 3 hags this entire tournament. Only one has really been able to master such a weird killer. Of course, it was earlier in the tournament, maybe less prepared teams going in against the hag as well. But it was a tough game to end our day yesterday.
Yeah, and that hag match was really a perfect example of of the survivors just harassing her and disarming her web is showing exactly what it is you need to do to counter a hag.
Yeah.
Maybe a good lesson for all of you guys at home who maybe have a little trouble when you run into her in your games.
Yeah, especially in solo queue. If she is picking somebody up, harass the traps. If she is chasing somebody else, harass the traps. Just pull her away, make sure that she can't keep them out for long, and then, yeah, you'll be in the clear. And it looks like today we're diving into Wrecker's Yard as our first match. The fan favorite, really. It's we see this map
over and over again. We've seen,
say,
yeah, I swear half the tournament's been played on Wrecker's Yard.
I feel like if people didn't have to swap to a different map, they wouldn't. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel like probably 2/3 to 3/4 of this tournament has been between Wrecker's Yard and Blood Lodge.
Yeah,
those are sort of like the two maps that we've really just been living on all weekend.
Yeah, honestly, it's been strange because, again, I personally consider myself somebody who I really lean towards. There's, McMillan and the Azarov maps are the two oldest sets of maps, and I'm just a McMillan guy, and then seeing Azarov so much, I'm really over green. I'm kind of done with it.
Yeah, I think especially since the rework to those maze tiles that sort of shortened those walls a little bit, I'm definitely a bit less of an Autohaven fan because there are a lot of spots where the survivors, even playing on that sort of standard resolution, that typical FOV, they can see you very clearly over the tops of those tiles in a lot of places. Yeah. Especially if you're playing a killer who has like an action that raises something over their head, like a Billy or a Huntress.
Yep.
They could just see you. You're just sitting there like a shark, like going back and forth, and they can just see you the entire time.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot of interesting psychology that goes into the maps that they pick, and I think really Wrecker's Yard keeps coming back because it does have no main building. It just has that central basement, and that means that most of everything else is kind of spawning in a radius outside of the shack, right? And it's maybe a little bit more predictable, a little bit more, even if the map seeding's not identical for match to match, it's a little bit more reliable. There are fewer variables that are off the wall. So it's interesting to see it continuously come back, especially knowing like what we talked about. Billy is banned going into this particular set.
By both teams.
Yeah, so no Billy this entire time. That means that we're probably going to see Spirits and Onis until those are invariably banned as well.
Yeah. And for our grand finals, which will be happening tomorrow, that is going to be a best of 5. So if that goes the distance, we're going to see 4 killers banned by each team. And I'm very curious to see what happens when you have your 4 favorite killers banned. What do you pick?
Yeah.
I wonder how much the teams have been able to prepare for that sort of situation.
Somebody please bring a just great Plague. That's all I want to see. That's all I want to see.
Yeah, we had a Plague, but she had a very tough game.
She did. She had a tough map and a tough game. I think Plague on Wreckers is like a whole different story than Plague on like Abattoir, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So do keep in mind that today, throughout any broadcast, if you are on YouTube or on Twitch or even on Facebook, there are going to be Dead by Daylight codes that you're going to be able to enter into DVD Mobile for exclusive goodies. So be sure that you stay engaged, stay active, hang around with us a little bit, and get some rewards, get benefits, right?
Yeah, keep your eye on the chat if you have some attention to spare from these awesome games.
Yeah, I mean, let's be totally honest. We all need a little bit of an incentive to do anything anymore. So,
yeah, I mean, hey, love me some extra blood points. You can never go wrong with blood points.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. So, going into this, we are going to look at RSK versus Endgame. RSK is surviving first. Endgame is playing Killer first, and we haven't seen Endgame in a while. I mean, we saw RSK.
I think the last time we saw them was last Sunday.
Yeah, it's been like they haven't been able to really play this weekend. RSK playing yesterday, so now we're looking at a Spirit coming into our match, which is, again, predictable. We saw it coming from a mile away.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of Spirits. I'm expecting sort of the pretty standard Corrupt, maybe some Ruin, probably a Noed, maybe a Pop, Amulet in the green shoes for that extra phase duration and movement speed. Yeah, you really start to get down to kind of just a really cyclical, tried and true sort of loadout from all parties here. You know what? I'm done talking
never
here.
Mind. So, yeah, we're actually seeing the Oops All Totems build come out from the Spirit here, and this is going to be interesting. So, first hit there, Kate just
not
with the blinders
seeing,
on.
Yeah. Maybe a little distracted by that totem and maybe not recognizing that the Spirit had seen her until it was a little too late. Though she does have the Iron Will, which will make her a little bit difficult to get the follow-up on.
Ooh, really good whiff there. Now, this is a pallet, and Spirit is going to be in cooldown for their ability. They are not going to be able to phase again for a little bit, which means this should be a safe drop unless the Spirit tries to fake this.
Yeah, I do find it interesting that instead of just forcing that pallet down while she was in cooldown, she thought spot to just try and keep the pallet up and use her power instead, force the survivor away from the loop.
Now, what we are seeing out of the Spirit, while we have a moment to talk about it, is all totems, right? So typically, killers bring perks that activate on hook or activate passively when certain amount of generators are done, but we're seeing that all totems on the map are lit up. We see Hex Ruin, Hex Devour Hope, and we are seeing Haunted Grounds actually only 4 totems.
There will be one dull totem. She's just kind of sitting there. I think she's... I'm not sure what she's waiting for, but there goes her Devour.
Hope. Yeah. So that is one Devour Hope proc right there. So Devour Hope is a perk that the killer has to move away from the hook to get a token. They get 1 token when a survivor gets unhooked. After 3 tokens, they get to insta-down anybody on the map. And then after 5 tokens, they get to start moriing people regardless of their hook states.
Yeah, I mean, with a team as coordinated as we've been seeing from RSK, I highly doubt we're going to see any mories come out from Devour. I think as soon, assuming she even manages to hit 3 tokens before all the gens are done and the survivors are out the door. I am definitely expecting them to recognize the threat of that Devour very quickly, especially when they start seeing other totems, because the Ruin is still very much in play right now. It is Yellow Ruin, so it's, I believe, only 100% regression speed. Yeah. But that passive regression can still do some work if our killer's able to build pressure.
Yeah, we're really seeing really great Dead Hard from the Ace there. Great stuff. And that's going to be free pallet throw if he chooses to use it. Oh, this is going to be a hit here.
Yeah, just a little bit greedy from the Ace. Just a touch.
Yeah, well, what we're seeing here is the strategy from the Spirit is, okay, we have Ruin. That Hex Ruin is going to put enough pressure on survivors for them to want to get to totems, and then hopefully they find Hex Haunted Grounds, and that allows the Spirit to snowball. But that is a lot of ifs to throw into a strategy that has this much money on the line, and we're really going to have to... Ooh. Wow.
Yeah, but see, one thing that is something that's really interesting about Devour Hope in this environment is, at least in theory, the survivors are going to be very consistently running the killer away from their hooked teammates, which would potentially allow her to get her Devour tokens a bit more easily than maybe she would otherwise.
100%. Oh, Dead Hard for distance. Good pallet
Just
throw.
Playing it safe.
Yeah.
Smart.
Yeah, I mean, realistically right now, the Spirit is going to start taking chases across the map with Ruin up that allows her to move across the map, push people off of generators, and still get passive regression, though its efficiency is not what we'd want. It's still something, and the survivors, don't necessarily know the efficiency. That's also the other side.
Yeah, and that was also Haunted Grounds going. It seems like the survivors did find another totem, but unfortunately, they lost the 50-50 here and activated the Spirit's secret tool to help them later.
That is a dicey spot to do that sort of standstill mind game. Had the survivor chosen to walk away, that would have been a really tough spot. But that is a free down and a potential another Devour Hope token. If they can continue this, they might be able to get away with at least a Devour Hope down before they actually get that cleansed out. I would imagine you only get 1 down with Devour Hope in a comp setting.
Yeah, especially considering there are only 2 hexes left on the map, and the Dwight ran past one of them, which was the Devour Hope totem, now that we can see that one has been cleansed. Well, there goes Ruin. And I wonder if the survivors have found that last totem yet, because if so, our Spirit's about to be out of perks.
Yeah,
well,
this is
until you know,
until the end game that you never really want to get to. This is such a dicey build to bring. End game coming in here, I think personally a softer build than I would have ever imagined.
Yeah, these are a lot of risks to take if you're the killer. Like it almost reminds me of that Wraith match we saw on last weekend, where they had a bunch of exposed perks, and really the stars aligned to help them win the game. I mean, everyone played well, but at the end of the day, bringing a build with this sort of randomness to it is very much a risk.
Ooh, really good down there. 2 people down. This is not a bad spot to be in. The Kate being a little indecisive, maybe not pre-throwing. I mean, it's all 50-50s and judgment calls there, but 1 survivor down, 1 survivor's going to be on hook. That is going to be Devour Hope cleansed out. So really the Spirit is just trying to snowball off the sort of hooks they've gotten. And honestly, only 2 gens done, 1 gen at 40%. They're not doing bad. Their hook spread is not necessarily incredibly dense, but it's pretty good so far.
Yeah, but you really do have to be careful, because if there's anything we've seen from RSK's Survivor so far is their ability to sort of pump through the gens and diffuse that pressure. It has just been phenomenal.
Yeah, the ability for RSK to change strategy mid-match and go, you know what, this isn't working, we need to do XYZ, has been really, really good. What they should, in my opinion, focus on right now is really healing up and then trying to just stay out of chase, right? A little bit more stealth, a little bit more on the back end, because they cannot afford to lose somebody this early in the game.
Yeah, it's also important to keep in mind that at this stage, both the Kate and the Nia are dead on hook.
Oh
and
my
then
God,
the Dwight did manage to finish the heal just in time.
Now, we do know that the Dwight is not, he has not been hooked at all. So if he can really just keep this chase going for any amount of time, but with,
yeah, the tracking from our Spirit has been phenomenal. But the Dead Hard, a little bit greedy, not going to the pallet.
Oh, do we see the boulder on the other side of that tile, too? That's just a whole, there's a whole mess back there. But Dwight never having been hooked, this is actually really good for the team. But right now, again, we're not seeing gens having progressed at all between these two downs almost. Just the one going to 15%.
Yeah, these chases have just been going so quickly. The Survivor, and especially having that secondary objective, sort of forcing the Survivors to spend 14 seconds per totem to get rid of these perks. I wonder if this gamble is going to pay off. It seems like it's doing pretty well so far because 2 Survivors on Death Hook, and 2 others having their first hook. You're honestly in a pretty good spot for this stage of the game, and it seems like she has a bit of a 4-gen that maybe she's just considering, oh yeah, I'm perfectly happy to stay over here.
Yeah, this is the big thing about Dead by Daylight. When we talk about 3 gens and 4 gens, you can force them, but if you can spread chase and keep people on hook, get a lot of hook states, and then you happen to have a 3 or 4 gen, that's the sort of cream of the crop right there. That's really what you want. And so right now the team kind of RSK 6 hook states out, Deliverance coming out of Dwight.
And getting right on that gen, too, because keeping in mind the Decisive Strike that Dwight probably has does not deactivate when he works on a gen. And wow, okay, Ace running right back into the Spirit while she's phasing.
This would be the second time Ace has gotten a little bit greedy for either windows or just kind of misplaying a tile that I think in the past we've seen them play just a little bit more consistently. But I guess do keep in mind that Ace is the individual that got grabbed yesterday by the nurse. So maybe just a little bit hasty. Maybe the weak link that the Spirit really needs to find.
This is interesting. I'm very surprised to see our killer leaving their 4-gen to go check on this gen on the opposite side of the map, as you have 2 other Survivors working on those much more critical gens, but maybe aware that the Nia is going to be here and she's going to be the one who's on Death Hook.
Yeah, that's really incredible to come all the way out here. I mean, realistically, if she knows that nobody's really forcing all of those gens, you have to think to yourself.
Just barely makes that window.
Yeah, that is incredible. Yeah, I think that's the big thing for me is, okay, well, I only see one person back here, maybe. Everybody else has got to be concentrated elsewhere.
You see that Ace just running up. He's like, yeah, no, I don't have DS, I swear. I'm just jumping in a locker right in front of you for no reason.
Yeah, I think we're seeing RSK playing a little bit of a sloppier game than I think I would have expected today. So, you know,
very bold.
Warm-up matches here are tried and true. And, I mean, I'm concerned, but I'll hold my judgment to the end because we have several more matches in store. If they can, you know, even if they lose Wrecker's Yard per se, they might be able to come back on the next map.
Yeah, and it's important to keep in mind this is 3 gens done, 1 at 3/4 and climbing, and then another couple at 20 and 30% respectively.
This is really what you would like to see in any sort of, even in public matches, right? You would like to see 1 kill by the time you have about 2 gens left, right? That really sews up that game for you unless you sort of drop and make some pretty heavy mistakes. Great tracking.
Oh,
man.
Was that? No Dead Hard coming out from the Ace. The instant swing from the Spirit.
Yeah, that was really great tracking, being able to hear that the Ace had sort of dropped and walked back around.
And just the confidence to take that immediate short swing, right? Rather than lunging and giving him the opportunity to react in Dead Hard.
Yeah, no hesitation. Really good mastery of the Spirit. One of the better Spirits we've actually seen in this tournament. I am pretty impressed. Endgame coming out here and saying, you know, we saw what you were capable of over the past few days. We're going to exploit some of those weaknesses.
Yeah, the in-phase tracking has just been so on point for our Spirit. And that is 4 gens done, but no significant progress on any of the remaining gens. We see 21%, 17, and 7.
Really good job from the Survivors here, actually just stealthing away, trying not to be too close to that gen because you know the Spirit's going to kick it, and maybe take a peek around, look around some of the trees here, and so just trying to kind of maybe make some misdirection, right? And then the minute Spirit walks away, they're going to get back on.
Yeah, and so our Spirit, sort of taking her little journey back and forth across the map, did trade away her 3-gen, but she traded that 3-gen for 2 kills.
Right, that's another thing we've kind of seen sometimes in certain matches, the sort of need to go back to gens over and over and over instead of really going for those hook states that are going to make the team really struggle to even work on gens to begin with.
Yeah, just recognizing that since this point system is based on kills, it is 1 point per kill or escape, depending on which side you're on, and then an extra point on top of that if you get all 4 kills or all 4 survivors out.
Ooh, we do see the Dwight kind of getting stuck there a little bit, and I don't know really. He's going to have to guess a Dead Hard here. Spirit really taking time to listen. Ooh,
but yeah, the
misguessing.
patience from Dwight, though. Dwight, I don't know if our Spirit's going to be aware of that because she couldn't see it, but the Dwight did use his Dead Hard to get to that window, thinking the Spirit was hot on his trail.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be the one thing is we're going to see the Spirit maybe is just going to try to bait Dead Hard or just try to wait it out while he kind of just lunges at nothing.
Yeah, not knowing that the perk has already been used.
Wow, good job from the Dwight here. Really just pre-playing the palette. We are going to see at least one more gen go. Good vault.
Yeah, I mean, this is what it's done right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
No adrenaline from anybody though.
No adrenaline. So this is certainly possible. I mean,
I wonder if she's just going to take her 3 and call it a day.
I probably would. It looks like all totems are already gone, so there is no no-ed capability here. So it looks like our survivor might be making a hatch play, right, as our killer will probably check the doors.
Yeah, but also, if I remember right where that hatch was, it was right by one of the gates.
Yeah,
so, I mean, good
right
luck,
next to
Kate.
the hook, yeah. So that's going to be a tough call to make. This should end in a 4K, if I'm being totally honest, because, I mean, unless the Spirit didn't see it, that could be possible. The Spirit didn't maybe check it.
Yeah, I mean, that grass can be pretty thick, and if the hatch is in the wrong place, it can be very hard to see.
And we are going to see the Spirit just kind of looking at the gate and just trying to keep line of sight to it while coming back.
There's the Kate. Yep, she sees her, I think. Yeah, she's just going to try and contest this unhook.
Wow, interesting strategy, I guess, here. Maybe just, again, get that hatch play, maybe set them up for something a little bit better.
Yeah, just a little bit of standing still for a moment. Oh, heard those footsteps, but lost track of her just a little bit. There's the Dead Hard.
The Dead Hard, but into nothing is going to go down still, unfortunately. That's going to be death on hook. So the Dwight is, what, in lurking around hoping for the hatch? No, he's at the door.
On the gate, yeah.
They are going to actually try to secure the one out. Maybe this
but the
wasn't
thing is, he's only been on the gate for about 5 seconds, so I don't know if he has time. I think our Spirit might get there. Oh, he recognizes that. But she's going to see those scratch marks. She knows he's there. She's going to see the scratch marks. She sees the blood.
Wow,
that's
play.
GG. A valiant effort, Dwight, but
where's the Dead Hard?
Barring a miracle, you're going down here.
Oh, I really wanted to see a clutch Dead Hard come out.
But even then, he's so far from the hatch.
Hey, man, all you need is a whiff and a dream.
Yeah,
really,
okay, she knows the hatch is there. She's going to close that, not taking any chances.
Yeah, really good stuff there from the Spirit. The team having a tough time kind of keeping up, and maybe all 4 splitting off and getting on totems. I don't really know what really slowed them, but we do know that the Spirit was consistently in chase. She did not drop or waste any time.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think just you have to keep in mind, too, that each totem takes 14 seconds to cleanse, right? The Haunted Ground got her a quick down. The Devour, I don't think ever actually got any insta-downs.
No.
The perk got broken in time, but at the same time, that is still sort of that natural slowdown that can sometimes even do more than what we've seen with like Pop Goes the Weasel, where you get a hook and then, well, none of the gens nearby are more than like 5-10%, so you're like, well, you know, you don't really get much value out of the perk.
Yeah, and I think there's something really psychological in what we saw there of like Hex Ruin being up. And for survivors, like for us, we know that it is the earliest version of Hex Ruin. It's 100% regression. Very, very slow. But for the survivors, they have no idea, unless they're paying really acute attention to how fast it's regressing. They don't really have any good idea there. And so there's a psychology in, oh, we need to find totems. And that even taking a minute and a half could be enough space, especially with Haunted Grounds coming out. Oh, now we all need to hide. We need to disperse. It worked out for them. I thought that was a risky build to begin with, but it...
Yeah, I mean, it definitely seemed like a gamble, but I don't know. Clearly our Spirit knows something we don't.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, RSK really was, in my eyes only, they had a really strong showing over the past few matches that they've played. Them and 4AM going head-to-head yesterday. It was really contentious. And but Endgame popping in today and saying, look, I saw you guys play yesterday. We read the cheat sheet. We understand how to get you. And maybe where the weak links are. Kind of we saw Ace kind of blundering a bit yesterday, getting grabbed by the nurse and some stuff. So I wonder if Endgame's looking to exploit some of those players that didn't quite hit the mark yesterday.
Yeah, but honestly, I think it was sort of like what we've talked about, where there are sort of a couple of different strategies for where you fit that slowdown in your builds, right? You have that sort of very front-loaded slowdown, which we sometimes see with like the Corrupt Ruin combo. Sometimes you bring that end game where we see like the No Way Out, the No-Ed, and then you have sort of that mid-game, which is sort of where that Ruin pop comes in.
Yeah.
And then this sort of leads to that same situation where you're sort of cycling those hooks, you're getting those downs quickly, your phase accuracy is on point, and the survivors are taking all that time to disable your totems. then you end up in this situation where, yeah, normally you end up trading like 3 gens for your first couple of hooks, but with the way this match played out, with the survivors having to take all that time to disable her perks, they only got 1 gen done, and she had like 4 hooks.
Yeah, and it's always really interesting to see what gens are the ones that got done, right? Because they're always the fringe, more outside gens. Survivors don't typically spawn in the center of a map, especially on Wreckers, a small enough map, right? And so, you know, for certain killers, just knowing, like, having a good approximation of, like, where people already spawned, where they could be, obviously lends you to be able to understand where you need to put yourself and where you need to take chase so that you can exert enough pressure just to dissuade people from being in that spot too soon, right?
Yeah, because we did also see, as soon as all of those totems were gone, right? They really started powering through those gens.
Yeah.
We went from 1 gen done, and then like the second those totems got done, within the next like minute, there were another 2 gens done.
Yeah, I think really what slowed it up is the sort of trying to unhook, and then somebody unhooking, and then one person sitting with their med kit and just trying to heal up while, okay, now I need to get back to a gen, or now I need to get back to totems, and really just having this, with Spirit's ability to stay on people, keep pressuring, and keep hooking people, just playing that cycle of like, okay, well, I just got done healing, now I need to unhook, and that combined with the sort of totem treasure hunt, I think was strong enough that 5 hooks by the time 2 gens are done. I mean, that's a win
that's
condition,
phenomenal
I think.
for what we've been seeing. Like typically our killers have been winning, especially as we've gotten to these later rounds. Our killers have a lot of the time had like a little bit of decent early pressure. That pressure gets diffused between medkits and perks and, you know, good positioning from our survivors. And then sort of we're often seeing like they get that first kill around like the 1 gen mark. And then they make that late game comeback if the killer ends up winning the match. Whereas in this game, we definitely saw sort of that early game setup, right? Like bouncing back and forth between the Nia and the Kate, getting 2 hooks on each right from the get-go. And that way, 50% of the team is dead the next time you find them, effectively.
Yeah, I think that was something also interesting to talk about, and we've talked about it before, is you could have 9 hooks in this game, but 9 hooks is 3 kills or it's 1 kill. Each person can only have 3 hooks on themselves. So, right, so if you hook one person, hook someone else, find that first person again, find that second person, there's 2 people ready to be dead, and you've only got 4 hooks, right? And so the Spirit knowing that and going, okay, I'm going to take this chase with the Dwight, but then I'm coming back to kill somebody, right? Or I think that is a huge differentiator. And this match, you know, actually went a lot faster. Even yesterday's, I think, most contentious match with the Oni, still the Oni got its 3 additional kills after the last generator was done, and that's such a different dynamic. This Spirit, I think, has had one of the most commanding victories we had. I go back to the Spirit on Rancid Abattoir. It was just painful.
I mean,
really
that was
strong.
a 4K with 2 or 3 gens left. That ruined staying up all game, doing so much work. But I think that what we had sort of highlighted with sort of bouncing back and forth between 2 survivors, so we are going to be loading back into the second half of our Wrecker's Yard game with another Spirit. And I wonder if we're going to see that same strategy of sort of bouncing back and forth between 2 survivors. Because what that does, right, is you're still applying pressure to everyone else. Because if you're just saying, you're the one I want, you're my first hook, I'm chasing you till you're dead, and then we'll deal with everyone else. Those other 3 survivors, especially in a world where you can have, you know, a purple medkit and DS Unbreakable and Dead Hard and Iron Will, you can be much more self-sufficient and much more able to survive for a long time than you maybe would without those tools. And so I think splitting pressure between 2 survivors ends up pressuring both of the other survivors as well.
Exactly, yeah. We are actually seeing a little bit of a, not a reversal, but we are seeing the No-Ed, No Way Out, Hex Haunted Grounds, and Hex Ruin. So we're seeing a little bit of that front load, that middle load, and then we're seeing that end game. So that middle is going to be really crucial for the Spirit to keep pressure up because, you know, Ruin's probably not going to last longer than, I'd give it 2 minutes, right?
Yeah, but it's also important to keep in mind that with Haunted Grounds, the survivors really do have to guess which totem is the one they want. And if they guess wrong, they don't win that 1 out of 3. Then things could get very hairy very quickly if they're not careful.
I almost felt like for a second there I saw that Claudette had Urban Evasion. I could have swore that was just...
No, in this environment, no way. I would be very surprised. I think the goal there was to crouch and just maybe blend in a little bit more with that
you are
environment,
quieter
be a little
when
bit
you-
less visible. Well, I
Yeah.
think she has Iron Will on.
Probably everybody does. Yeah.
Everybody's bringing Iron Will these days.
No,
Oh.
she does have
So
Urban.
that-
She did have Urban.
Interesting. Okay, so that actually, between Urban Evasion and the natural... Oh my god, the Haunted Grounds proc.
Wow.
Oh, that is... This could be
Incredible.
very, very dangerous for our survivors if they can't get this unhook before the second hook
And we
comes in.
do see the generator progress on both gens reversing as Hex Ruin is doing its damage. Survivors now having to come off their gens and try to make a heroic play soon, or the
this
Spirit's
is
just going to camp
dangerous.
both of these survivors out and make this an easy match.
Yeah, especially considering we've often been seeing killers sort of hold this side of the map. You sort of end up with that 4-gen where you have the gen by the tanker truck, the gen in that tile right next to the totem, and then those 2 gens sort of down in that pocket. It wouldn't surprise me if our killer is perfectly happy to just hang out here and not go anywhere else.
Exactly. I mean, we saw the gen that had about 34%, is now at just 10%. Hex Ruin passively regressing it. And we do see one gen going up, and then we just see a survivor crouching around, and that is a ton
This is a risk. Oh, no.
Ooh.
Oh, just... Haunted Grounds just expiring before that hit comes through.
No, we are going to maybe see a Dead Hard come out to evade. No? Okay, let's see. Claudette, not really worried about much. And we do see the Survivor team really, I think, struggling a little bit here from endgame. Obviously, the RNG of Haunted Grounds being quite painful, but both of the downs have been, or I guess the natural downs, right, have not been very difficult for the Spirit to sweep up.
Are Claudette just not making her way back to the hook in time? She, I guess, maybe not recognizing that pickup in time to go save her teammate, and she's just going to go die in the corner. I'm assuming there's a DS Unbreakable in play for her, considering Arnia is just sort of sitting on a gen across the map. But this is a very tough situation for the survivors. Oh no, that gen left at 90%, but Ruin's going to just chew that progress away while Arnia tries to make her hero play and salvage what's looking to be a very... Well, I mean, at this point, it's looking like a lost game unless Claudette comes through with something really incredible.
This is the more sort of comp DBD that I'm used to, right, where you see Spirit Nurse. Oh, we do see the Claudette actually popping that UB. And it's going to be a good hit on the knee. It's going to be a strong pallet out once they can get back here. But Spirit does need to return to where they've gotten all these hooks and really just make something of someone here. And I think they identify that the Claudette can't have DS anymore. Like, it should be on its way out.
Yeah, it's been long enough that I think our Spirit is no longer worried about getting stabbed in the back by Claudette. So I think that seems to be her target of choice, but maybe just losing track a little bit. Not quite certain of where it is she needs to be.
Yeah, now this is what we've talked about in several matches before of, like, if you let up just your foot off the gas for a minute.
All 4 of these survivors have medkits.
Yeah, this could be a really tough spot for the Spirit. They do need to get somebody right back on the hook.
Fung's healed.
Yeah, Fung just fully healed out right there. The Spirit being so close to finding them. Hex Ruin is still up. No gens have popped. 4 hooks, but Spirit cannot afford to waste this opportunity. The survivors are going to bounce back. It is always possible.
See, it is important, though, to keep in mind that they have effectively traded effectively just their Haunted Grounds and 2/3 of a gen for 4 hooks.
Okay. Yeah.
And that is a fantastic trade from the killer. There goes the Ruin Totem. I believe that was the Claudette that worked on that. And Claudette being injured again, going to run to Shaq. I wonder how this chase is going to play out, if she's going to commit to the Claudette or not.
Yeah, I'm really fascinated to see. This pallet does have to get out of the way. Now only 2 perks, but here's the thing. Even if the survivors do get all the generators done, No Way Out is a perk that will lock those exit gates from being able to be opened immediately, which is going to seal these survivors into this match. I don't predict that many of them make it to the end game, but it's really not out of the woods yet.
Yeah, and our Fung is going to have to play very, very cautiously, considering that she's the only one on her team that is dead on hook. So I expect her to stay about as far away from the action as she reasonably can.
We do see 2 generators about to pop. One was at 93 and one is about 65. So survivors finally kind of whittling, and there it is right there. We do see the survivors kind of whittling down some of these things, but it's a little late, and they're going to have a hard time clawing back. It's not impossible. We've definitely seen some strange comeback stories.
Oh, I think maybe a slight UI issue when it came to that Claudette. I think it seems like she did actually go struggle but the UI only showed 1 hook state on her because she is now dead.
Oh, maybe she missed skill checks. I mean,
It could be.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
but
wild.
that was very quick. I think that was too fast for skill checks. I
Probably.
think that was maybe a slight issue with the UI.
Yeah, that is fascinating. That is 3v1 right now. 2 gens done. This is probably one of the strongest leads a killer has had in this entire tournament. And of course, we're not out of the woods yet, but
Yeah, I mean, you never know. With all of the tools at their disposal, if they're used well, the survivors still very much have the ability to make a comeback here. It's definitely not. I wouldn't call it wraps just yet.
Ooh, okay, now we'll call it wraps right
Yeah,
now.
that's tough. That's tough.
Now,
I like those spins mid-phase from the Spirit. That was flashy.
The sort of the mechanical capability here on the Spirit is not bad, but I mean right now we see the basement hook. We're gonna see what I call sort of the game of unhooking, right? Where one survivor has to come unhook, the Spirit will get into a chase with somebody else. That means nobody will be on generators, and no progress is gonna effectively be made here.
Yeah, and then the survivors just sort of end up in that death spiral where they're just unhooking and saving and healing and unhooking and saving and healing, and they're just, like you said, they're just not able to make meaningful progress because they're always occupied with keeping each other alive.
Yeah, I mean, that would be something that would be okay if you could whittle down the final gen and just barely make it out. But even, again, with no way out, there are no guarantees. This is going to be sort of a walk for this Spirit here. And that's going to make it interesting. It's going to tie up this first round and usher us into a next round that's, we have almost less information than we did before.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see what our survivor strategy is for getting their teammate out of the basement here, because it seems like they've now communicated that the Spirit is chasing, but I wonder if we're going to see her make her way back to the basement to try and contest this unhook. Yeah, she sees the scratches, and there it is.
Good hit. The Fung having to opt to leave.
Great game sense from our Spirit to recognize the timing on that unhook coming in.
Yeah, really engaging in that chase and then giving it about 10 seconds, realizing they can meet somebody at the door, really, right as they enter. And we do see the Fung sort of crouching over there and healing. The individual on the hook is just not. They're dead. They're dead.
I mean, that's second stage confirmed. They've got a good. They've got a good 50 seconds or so until they're dead. But the thing is, with that central basement spawn, yes, the Meg is going to unhook the Nia, but getting out of this basement comes with a cost.
Exactly. At some point, the Spirit's going to be able to use their ability to get right back in on somebody else and just get a different hook, right? This is the kind of sort of death spiral, right? Nobody's been able to be on a gen for a little bit. Obviously Fung just hopping on one. And then Meg having to sort of hope that they can make something happen or waste enough time here.
Yeah, I mean, this is tough. Like, you're running deep into that corner. A third gen does get done, but the thing is there are still 2 more to do, and neither is further than a quarter progressed. So things are still not looking quite good enough for our survivors for people to have a reasonable chance of escape out those gates.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it before where if the Spirit wastes enough time, it could happen, but then that would be the fault of the Spirit more so than the outplay of the survivors really in that situation. And, seeing the Meg go down here, they were able to waste a not insignificant amount of time. We do have a reset from the rest of the survivors, 1 gen at 18, 20%, but and 1 survivor in the basement. I looking for a key maybe or a hope and a dream.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, there's a decent chance that your best odds of escape are actually getting a key out of that basement chest.
That's one thing that we actually had sort of mentioned yesterday, is that we really hadn't seen anyone bring Plunderer's Instinct and really try to get a key and get a 3-man out the old easy way.
Yeah, oh man, there are some really some memories, both fond and not so fond of those key mechanics.
Yeah, my blood pressure can't handle it. I instantly furious the minute I think about it, because the way the hatch works right now is the minute somebody is dead, if you have more gens done than there are survivors alive, then the hatch will spawn. And that makes it so that if you have a key, you can just pop that hatch open. 2 to 3 people can just leave right then and there if you can orchestrate it. But you can't bring a key. You have to find it, and that's the caveat.
Yeah, and so we do see the Fungs searching that basement chest. I wonder, what are the odds that she actually gets a key here?
No.
Unfortunately, no. She does just find herself another med kit, a little bit of a refresh on that self-healing ability, but maybe not quite what she was hoping for.
Yeah, and especially on this map, you only have 2 chests, and really the odds are going down as time progresses, and that might be the play they're going for, is just like, you know what, gens, I mean, whatever, I guess somebody get on it to kind of make the killer feel like that's really what we're progressing towards, but let's see if we can find that key.
Yeah, I think our survivors had realized that realistically their best chance of escape was just that random key out of a chest. Because even without No Way Out in play, it's just so difficult to make progress against a killer who can down people as quickly as a spirit.
Ooh, no, so there we go. We just saw the hatch spawn. 2 survivors dead, 3 gens done, so 1 more gen than survivors alive.
And our spirit should have seen the hatch there. She is just checking around with the amount of progress on that gen. She thinks maybe the other survivor is also here, but not actually correct. The other survivor is across the map.
Yeah, I'd really be interested to see kind of what comes out of this in terms of, I mean, does the second chest give us a key? It doesn't look like it. It looks like our Fung is still lugging around their med kit, but I mean, right now this is just sort of delaying the inevitable from our survivors.
Yeah, I wonder just how slow our survivors are willing to play here. Well, maybe not so slow, as we see our Mega sprinting around right into the killer. Maybe not quite aware of what direction she was approaching from.
A little bit of a whiff there from the Spirit, doing a short swing instead of a full lunge, but they are going to connect on the second one. And then Meg is really, with most of the pallets being gone on this map, just going to try to make something happen around windows, or maybe just go for distance and hope that Fung can get to the hatch, knowing that Meg will die almost instantaneously on hook.
Yeah, but it's also important to keep in mind that the hook that's deep in that corner has been broken. And also, so has the hook slightly closer into the map. Both survivors have died on hooks in this corner, leaving a bit of a hook dead zone here. And so our killer's going to have to carry just a little bit of a ways away, which may potentially buy time for Fung to make it to hatch.
Spirit really going long here. Of course, remember, you can only carry a survivor on your shoulder for roughly about 16 seconds before they will wiggle free. And the Spirit really going for the 10, 12 second mark there so that they can get the hook and then get to the hatch before a survivor can get there. And that's a really strategic, very smart play.
Yeah, I do think our Fung here is looking to make a stealthy gate play, but the thing is, she's missing some critical information here. Unfortunately, that is that the killer has No Way Out with 4 tokens, which means that there will be a full minute of gates blocked, no progress able to be made. So if our Fung waits more than 40 seconds here, it is physically impossible for her to escape, even if she does manage to actually get to a gate uncontested, which is looking less likely by the second.
So what we're seeing is we see the orange bar. That is called the endgame collapse. Now, this is something that wasn't always in DBD, and this was always a little bit fun, but the endgame collapse gives you about 2 minutes, and what that means is that once the hatch is closed or once a door is opened, the game is forcibly ended after 2 minutes. And so really what it looks like, the Fung is trying to get the Spirit to check the door, and as the Spirit leaves, start to open that door behind her back, right? But the idea here is that with No Way Out, that will lock the door the minute the Fung touches it. She will not know it's in play until she procs it. And so that's going to be the surprise. there it is. There's the moment where she goes, oh, okay, oh, we're done. And now over a minute of the bar is gone. The Spirit could just stare at her. But she decides to end it
as well. But yeah, it is also important to keep in mind that when No Way Out does activate, it does let the killer know which gate it was that No Way Out was activated on.
Yep.
So not only knowing that, yes, the perk is activated, the gates are locked, but also knowing it was this door that the Fung touched. That's where I need to be.
Exactly. So really, it's a good commanding sort of win from RSK, really reinstilling some of my faith in that team, because there were just a little bit of missteps made from their survivor counterparts. But obviously, neck and neck right now, 5-5. There's no definitive real front runner in this race as we move on to the second map and the second set of bans, which at this point might be Spirit bans. We could see that.
Yeah, I mean, both of our Spirits playing phenomenal games.
Yeah, really, I'm shocked to see 2 great back-to-back Spirits.
Yeah, she's been very hit or miss, like that, our old Rin Yamaoka throughout the tournament.
I mean, realistically, we have to give it up there. RSK getting just sort of the better RNG, the better happenstance, right, with Haunted Grounds proccing so early, allowing them to get a hook and then get a second hook, right?
Yeah, and also just the fact that the totem popped like seconds
right as they swung.
Not even multiple seconds before the swing to get that first down. Just I've been there. That's never fun to be the person where, even when you're in a Survive with Friends, right? You're playing with your friends. Someone's like, hey, look, there's a hex. I'm going to go cleanse it. And it's like, please, no, please don't do it.
Yeah.
The danger. Think of the danger.
Yeah, at least wait till I'm injured, then cleanse it, right? Because then if I'm injured and they down me, really whatever. I got the most out of this chase, right? So I think with the prevalence of Haunted Grounds, I think it's really interesting how the psychology of these matches changes with like, okay, can we just power through Ruin? Can we make that? Do we really want to risk this being Haunted Grounds? Or we see them attacking totems after that first initial hit. Or, we're going to see a little bit more strategy, hopefully, around those. That's how I would probably start to mitigate the risk a little.
Yeah, because we have seen a frankly surprising amount of success from Haunted Grounds in this tournament. This is now like 3 games where our killer has gotten significant value from a perk that is known to be extremely inconsistent.
Yeah, it is a little bit risky, and that's why we're seeing with RSK's killer there just a little bit of the consistency on the back end, right? The no-ed and the no-way out.
Just to close out that game.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think Devour Hope was probably the riskiest thing we've seen. There's no way that stays on the field too long, but we're going to pass it off to some highlights real quick because I think there were some really good things to look at from both sides of that match as we get set up for Game 2. Of course, I'm blown away by Endgame's initial Spirit plays, being incredibly patient, doubling back, not swinging too soon. We saw a lot of double backs and waiting and listening and correction.
Yeah, and even just taking that like fraction of a second to actually acquire your target and make sure you're not swinging until you know who you're going to hit and where they are. It's worth it to just maintain that more consistent accuracy.
We do see a little comp corner here coming out from the Nia. And then the ace just caught completely off. Not even a dead hard could happen there, right? Just going down. And that's actually going to happen here at the dump truck here.
Yeah, I mean, that is one of the things that's very interesting when you're playing Spirit, right? Is that to a certain extent, the survivors do just sort of have to guess what you're doing. The information they have is very limited. And so you often end up in these situations where you can sort of hear their footsteps going one way and like you double back to catch them where they're going, but they don't really have enough information to recognize what you're doing because for all they know, you could just be following straight after them.
Yeah, I mean, that's the big thing here, and that's why we see this Kate sort of trying to double back and trying to make something happen, but then, you're really, when the Spirit reappears, you're just caught off guard as well as anyone else, the Urban Invasion Claw.
Yeah, those are just... I feel like I haven't seen one of those in the wild in a little while.
No, and I think, against the Spirit, I don't think it's a bad idea, but I think that it is a smarter idea if you are trying to walk off of a gen way preemptively, and it just didn't happen for them. This is the Haunted Grounds proc here.
Yeah, just seconds. Just like, and that's the thing is, I think the Fung popped that totem too, so just immediate retribution from our killer. Like, hey, you're not touching my totems. I'm going to take you down immediately.
Yeah, I think there's something really... I'd love to hear the comms on the back end of that. I'm like, oh, God. Really good job here getting that hatch closed, starting that endgame collapse, getting the no-ed going.
And then as soon as that halfway mark comes through on the bar, the Fung sees the no way out, and she's like, well... one way or the other, this is curtains for me.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, a great showing, really going for the hatch play. I think we might see some more games that go like 5-0, 5-0, I think really we're getting into that echelon where killers are incredibly experienced, incredibly practiced. We're not going to hopefully see too many like eruption, brine, waiting, stalling sort of scenarios. I think there are going to be a lot more cutthroat, decisive picks.
Yeah, I mean, though I am interested in seeing as we've gone over before, each map that we go on to. So that was game 1 where each side plays both killer and survivor. We're now going to pick a new map, a new set of killer bans. So each team will decide, okay, my opponents are not allowed to play XYZ killer. For the first round, the bans from both sides were Billy. And we're going to be seeing another set of bans coming through as we go into our next map.
Now, keep in mind that we're not picking any of this. This is all funneling straight out of the teams, right? The teams are picking the maps, which is playing into the psychology of like, okay, well, if we pick a bigger map, some of these killers are going to be a little bit rougher, wide open spaces. So there's a lot behind the scenes that's happening between the teams, who they pick, who they choose to ban for the other team. And that, I mean, to some degree, I think that's a little bit of the pregame of like, okay, well, I'm going going to ban this because I think this is what you're capable of. And what does that say about how one team feels about the other going into those matches? I think we can see after really commanding Spirit plays, I think we see that we don't see, I think we see Spirit bans, I think, more consistently. But, you know, knowing now that we have Rotten Fields as our upcoming map, I mean...
Yeah, I am very curious as to... Someone has to have a strategy for this.
Yeah, and
it does look like both teams have banned Spirit after that last match. I mean, can't say I'm surprised considering those performances we saw.
So for Rotten Fields, it has to be an Oni shoe-in, right? Maybe a Huntress, but I think that's dicey.
I mean, if we see a Huntress, realistically, it's probably going to be another Eerie Head basement game. But I would love to see another Oni. It's been...
Our first Oni of the day.
Yeah, it's going to be our first Oni of the day. So... I don't know. Somebody's got to have a strategy for this. There's no way you just say, yeah, you know, I'm going to pick Rotten Fields. I'm going to pick a big, wide open map with kind of not great visibility and that sort of ring of tiles, like pretty well connected, but just all around the edge of the map with that sort of shack in the center and just a ring of nothing but corn for like 2 tiles in any direction.
Yeah, Rotten Fields doesn't lend itself very well. For context, Rotten Fields is designed a little bit like Wrecker's Yard in the fact that there is the shack is right in the middle of the map, but unfortunately, unlike Wrecker's Yard where we saw some of those trucks and tire loops and just these more filler pallets, we see there's nothing around that shack. It is just...
There's a lot of corn.
There's a lot of corn.
Can't say nothing. There's a lot of corn.
That's a fact. It's nothing helpful for the most part, right? It's a lot of hoping it gets... So with Nurse, right, if you blink right into that corn, there's a chance that the survivor is able to sort of lose you just long enough, right, in the corn. We call it corn blindness in the business. And so, but simultaneously for survivors, there's nothing to use there, right? So you really have to be more thoughtful with the resources that you choose to use, like pallets, and when you use those. So it's a weird pick. It really, to me, speaks to a confidence from a survivor perspective. I think with Oni or some of these killers, it's likely you could make it work. So I don't know. I'm interested to see the picks coming out of that.
Yeah, and Rotten Fields also being one of the bigger maps in the game definitely lends itself much better to a team of survivors that is able to coordinate their rotations well and make sure that everybody's nice and spread out around that map.
Yeah, I think there's something really interesting to be said about, I mean, like I said, we've seen Abattoir, right, a map with a strong main building, a map with decent tile connectors, but seeing something like this that is a little bit more barren, it's large, you're really relying a little bit more on stealth and communication than you are mechanical skill. Not that it won't play in chases, but realistically, it's going to come down to team coordination. Oh, where have you been? What gens have you worked on? Where do I need to be right now? That is going to be the make or break. If the killer can get a good down, take you to basement, or 3 gens are a little bit rough, but if they can
3 gens on Rotten Fields are tough.
Yeah, they're always wide if there is one, and so this is a really difficult one. I think maybe just putting them both in a maybe compromising position is a bit of a strategy in and of itself. Yeah,
I mean, I would be very interested to see maybe the survivors, maybe our survivors have practiced this map, right? Maybe somebody has. I mean, I'm sure this is not a map you choose for a competitive environment without some sort of plan. Because this is definitely one of those maps that is a little bit unusual to see in a competitive format.
Oh yeah.
And so. Like, I keep saying this because it's the only thing. Like, I'm just kind of circling in my head. I'm like, why? Like, you have to have a plan. You have to have some idea of what you have to have a specific strategy for this map going into it. Otherwise, why would you pick it?
Yeah, and I mean, we don't have a great idea of who picked the map, and I think that even makes it more interesting, right? In my heart of hearts, I think we've never seen Rotten Fields as a pick coming from RSK or anything of that nature or any of their matches. So this leans in my head to being more of an end game pick, which means that maybe this is a strategy or something they're trying to exploit from their opponents.
And especially, it wouldn't surprise me if a lot of these teams probably know each other. They've probably played against each other previously in some format or other. So maybe they just know, like, hey, the person who's playing killer for RSK just really hates this map, so let's play it just to mess with them.
Yeah, we are loading in right now to Rotten Fields. I never thought I'd really say that, but it is, hey, it's a change of pace, right?
Yeah,
so
it's gonna be interesting. Definitely a map that's a little bit more difficult to orient yourself on, too, with that lack of a main building, that sort of very symmetrical shape. you can sort of orient yourself by those secondary structures. And oh, interesting, like you had said, yeah, we are going to be seeing that Oni in our first match.
Yeah, so endgame playing killer first, RSK playing killer, kind of mirroring what we had last round. And we're going to see endgame pulling out an Oni, and I honestly cannot recollect exactly how endgame's Oni is if we've ever seen them play Oni. So I'm a little bit on sort of the back foot here, just excited to see what they pull out. They had a commanding spirit lead. I don't think you pick Oni on accident unless you know what you're doing either. So interesting to see the build and kind of what comes out of this here.
Yeah, okay, so we are seeing sort of that good old classic 3 slowdowns and no-ed, right? We're seeing Corrupt Intervention, Hex Ruin, Pop Goes the Weasel, and no-ed. Oh, and interesting, our killer maybe a little bit surprised by those survivor spawns, actually walking right by them, never getting the chance to see them.
Yeah, interesting for our killer just to kind of go and beeline, maybe beelining right for the totem to try to catch somebody who maybe spawned near it, but really just looking at gens as if survivors aren't going to be crouching and waiting Corrupt out this early. Almost reminds me of when I play pubs. This is kind of how I behave, which works in pubs, but not in tournaments.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, our killer is spending a lot of time sort of trying to secure that Corrupt area, not recognizing those survivor spawns. But I think it's interesting because the killer recognized that his Ruin Totem was sort of in the middle of all the Corrupt gens, right? And when a survivor spawns next to a Corrupt gen, what's the next thing they're going to look for? Totems.
Exactly, yeah.
And so just trying to make absolutely sure that that Ruin doesn't pop early, that he's able to get some value from that. But I don't think we've seen, like, our survivors are playing this very, very slow. Not a single % of gen progress made yet by our survivors. But the thing is, nothing lost either. No pallets, no health states, not even a chase.
Yeah, really what they're trying to do is burn out the time here so that the Corrupt Intervention perk from the killer that locks those initial 3 generators just burns its way out. That is going to weaken his capability to pressure multiple gens, and it could cause psychologically for a killer to spiral out a bit, have no orientation on where anyone could be, and really sort of keep him guessing. This is a rough start. This is a rougher start.
Yeah, I mean, a phenomenal job from our survivors, though, just to not get found. Well, as I'm saying that, he's closing in on 3 survivors. Well,
there it is.
He sees Nia. Oh, he sees Ace, but the sprint burst making him whiff the swing.
Yeah.
Nia's going to make that pallet. Yeah, just playing it safe, dropping. But this is the first time I think we've seen a full 2 minutes pass and that Corrupt Intervention run out before the killer gets their first hit.
Yeah, do keep in mind for Oni, if Oni hits a fully healthy survivor, they do get a full 40% charge on their ability, and that's pretty substantive, right? If Oni can get 2 hits, that pretty well guarantees that they get to go right into their ability, start dashing around the map. So this is not an insignificant start for Nia to throw that pallet early, and for survivors to play a big game of keep away and really start pounding on gens.
Yeah, just playing it safe from the Dwight. You love to see it. Oh, vaulting that window, a little bit of a risk, but I wonder if this is a two-pallet. This is a two-pallet jungle gym. So, yeah, our killer's going to recognize, yeah, I don't want to be here. And see, this is one of the things that's really interesting. One of those quirks of DBD Mobile is that there's something of a bit of a relic mechanic here, where you can have jungle gyms that spawn with 2 pallets, and on a map where the resources are spread out across fewer functional tiles, like Rotten Fields, you're probably much more likely to see those sort of double pallet tiles spawn.
Yeah, I think we've already seen 2 double pallets, which is, again, not something that you would see in other versions of the game. It's something that's typically deemed as too strong to play against from a killer perspective. Great dead hard to the pallet throw there.
Yeah, that dead hard for distance, just denying that early hit. Oh, Dwight's going to go down here?
No?
He's still going to go down. It's going to take a sec.
First down happening here. Oni committing to that first down, understanding he does not have pressure anywhere else. He is going to lose 2 gens in the process, but it's not a lost game. He did lose Corrupt, but he is still very much in the running. Pop Goes the Weasel will be up because we do see Hex Ruin has been cleansed off of the map.
Yeah, but our survivor is just doing such a phenomenal job of stealthing out that Corrupt in the early game, effectively wasting an entire perk slot, of which the killer only has 4.
Yeah.
And when every single one of your perks as killer needs to provide you value. And The killer's corrupt intervention in this match really just not doing that.
Really good job on the Oni there. Actually, you know, I predicted 2 gens were going to go, but he actually was able to get a kick on a gen and use Pop Goes the Weasel and regress it to about a 75%. And then it you know, goes back even further from there, and he's able to delay that just a little bit and get an extra hit here.
Yeah, and that hit on the healthy Nia is going to give him his power. She's going to just have to drop the Shack Pallet here. I expect her to play it safe.
Ooh, the delayed stun there. I imagine he breaks this and uses his power maybe to check on that gen.
Yeah, I think in this case, I think considering how well these survivors stealth out the early game, I think he wants maybe a little bit more confirmation before actually using his power, just to make sure that the survivors aren't able to evade him for the duration, like they did such a phenomenal job of in the early game.
Yeah, this is the big thing here with Oni is you really, ooh, great job on the break there.
Yeah, just Kate playing it safe, just drop the pallet. No need to take that risk.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I think RSK, we're seeing a very a more tight-knit group from RSK here, being a lot safer than they've been in the past.
Yeah, I think he's just going to take this hook,
Go
recognizing that, yeah, I think with the amount of his power he used, 1 hit and a couple of orbs should get him that power back, so not too much investment on the part of our killer to get this down. It's going to be another pop on the high progress gen, and the thing is, that's the gen with the most progress. We have 2 gens finished, but out of all of the gens still remaining on the map, that's the only one with any meaningful amount of progress. All other 3 all 4 other gens rather are at 0.
We do see the Oni here following the Blood Orb trail. That's going to give him a little bit of info on where the survivor had gone previously to heal up. That's going to give him his power and put Dwight on his sort of back foot here. As Dwight's been hooked before, this is a prime target for Oni, who has spent a lot of time breaking pallets and weakening these structures.
Yeah, I wonder if we're going to see that commitment to the chase here, because, yeah, one of the pallets has been broken at this tile, but the other one has not. So I wonder, interesting, so popping his power here on the injured survivor, I wonder if he's going to leave and look for someone healthy.
Yeah, it does look like he might go back to that gen, knowing that it's pretty high percentage, which is a bit of a risk. You're losing, you know, the guaranteed person who you've chased before to maybe possibly potentially go find somebody. That's it's a bit dicey, especially knowing that survivors are going to hide when you're in that power.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really hoping, for the sake of our Oni, being able to make a real impact in the rest of this game. I hope he's able to find someone, but you see the positions of the survivors. You'll see someone like chilling in the background on the edge of the map, just forfeiting that gen progress because it's no longer being eaten away at by Ruin. But the thing is, if our Oni doesn't manage to down anyone with this power, if our survivors are successfully able to stealth out the whole duration, he catches the ace, but no
whiffs.
hit.
Oh my gosh! I mean, really, yeah, this was incredibly smart from the survivors. We've seen if the survivors can. Oh, and
the early drop, no risks.
And he should be out of his power here in probably just about 5 to 7 seconds.
He could get this down, but that should be the power duration ending right about there. Yeah, there it goes.
So, I mean, this is an interesting strategy from survivors. Typically, this is conventional wisdom. Knowing Oni can instantly down you and then go after someone else and down them. Survivors hiding in lockers, being really smart and not revealing themselves is very good, but it nets them no progress in that time. And so that's going to, I mean, again, we've seen traded time on both sides, but, you know, it's a bit of a war of attrition here. It's a slower match for Oni, but it's not necessarily a losing one yet.
Yeah, and we're seeing 3 hooks with 2 gens done and 1 more on the way, just reaching over the 90% mark. There it goes. It's gone.
Yeah. I would say the big thing I see here is if we notice looking at the survivors, right, we've seen Kate, Dwight, and Ace all hooked once. Nobody on second stage. No threat of anyone dying. 2 gens left. I mean, Oni needs to get 2 real fast consecutive downs to really be able to build pressure. 1 hook right now is not going to be enough for these survivors to be scared off, quite frankly.
Yeah, it is also important to keep in mind, though, how many of the pallets are just gone from this map now. There are probably only 4 or 5 pallets left on the whole map, if I had to guess. Because our Oni had a bit of a slower early game, but that early game was spent getting rid of those pallets. And the Dead Hard to the window not quite making our Dwight enough distance, and that's going to be his second hook.
And that's going to go on hook right here, and then we are going to see he's probably going to kick this gen right here, knowing this gen has at least significant progress. It's not going to be the most progressed gen. Oh, it looks like he actually might save this. Maybe make some rounds with the ability before he uses that Pop Goes the Weasel.
Yeah, I think recognizing that the possibility of more progress on another gen
is going to be, I mean, it's not going to be insubstantive. He's going to pass by here. He'll get the notification that this gen has progress here, and then hope that he could find somebody, maybe get the pop.
Yeah,
but
I think, yeah, he's going to take the time to kick and maybe do a little searching in the area. Ooh, oh, not seeing the Kate crouching at the edge of the map.
Yeah, pretty obvious, honestly, from the... obviously, we have a big name marker over it, but let's see if these survivors can continue to be very patient. They don't want to unhook while he has power, because that's going to give him a big beacon to come back to, like, hey, we're right here and grouped. So this is, again, a little bit of a war of attrition, just waiting patiently for both sides.
It seems like he's going to try and confirm this kill here, which is probably a good play at this point, because knowing that the survivors are more likely to be hiding while he's in his power, just making sure he gets that kill, even if his power runs out. This does seem like extra duration. I'm thinking probably Lion Fang from the looks of things.
Now we do see that the gen that was popped, oh no, and that is going to be the end of the power.
Out.
No pallet up here, but you know that gen got pushed all the way up to 63% from 25. Not bad from the Kate coming back and saying, you know, we got to do something here. And sticking it was a little dicey, but making the right play there, taking the hit and running off.
Yeah, very, very bold to sit on that gen with a raging Oni charging at you, I have to say. I respect it. That's not something you see very often.
I mean, that may boil down to them knowing the duration add-ons, understanding all of those things incredibly well. It also could just be luck, but good job on the pre-throw here. Not risking anything while everyone else gets gens done.
Yeah, I mean, that's something you see public match players messing up constantly, is just taking unnecessary risks. Like, especially against a killer where a single hit matters as much as the Oni, there's just no reason to take those risks. Like, just drop the pallet. See, there you go. Like, don't let him down you. Don't let him build that pressure, because very few killers can snowball harder than an Oni.
Yeah, we are seeing him continue chase here as our last gen is nearing completion. Should be done in just about 4 or 5 seconds here, and that is going to be no adrenalines, of course, but a 2K, a nice clean 2K if they can really secure that. No Noed in play. We saw all mid-game perks, and really good pallet throw from the Kate there.
Well, there is actually Noed in play. I think you... There is, yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Top left, yeah.
Nope, you're right. Yeah, there is Noed. So, I mean, the problem is Kate's already injured, right? So the value there is, unless they decide to trade for her, which they could, but I think that's dicey knowing it's just a 2K.
Yeah, I mean, that 4% speed boost is definitely not something you can ignore. It definitely has gotten me hit more times than I would like to think about.
Yeah, we do see the hatch right now open. All the survivors leaving. That means that Kate is just going to go instantly dead. That's going to be a 2K, putting just 2 points on the board for endgame. Not as strong a showing as previously. Maybe I think the map obviously influenced that quite a bit. RSK maybe having a bit of an easier time as their killer, hopefully, right? Maybe we see a nurse RSK having a decent ability to command a multitude of killers.
Yeah, and I mean, what we are going to need is we're going to need 3 kills coming out from our killer in the next match if they want to take it, or 3 escapes from our survivors.
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing is, like, this could go to a match 3, right? If they just want to settle for the 2 and not play risky, they could and push it to a 3 and then really just whittle away at the victory. But, you know, what we've seen from RSK is that a 3K is not impossible. This is not a moment where they could potentially really fumble. I mean, they could, anyone could fumble, but I have seen really strong gameplay from them. I would expect at least a 2. And I think we'll see certain strategies to try to secure those 2 and go for a 3rd potentially. So that being said, it's really, again, it's Rotten Fields. The killer is going to be an interesting killer pick, I think. Maybe an Oni? Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I would be very curious to see if endgame survivors are able to have that same extremely clean early game that we saw from RSK here.
Yeah, the fascinating thing that I saw, RSK's mastery of understanding Oni and really being more honed against him. You know, we saw from Endgame playing against Spirit, just sort of crouching in some strange areas, flailing a bit, a little bit, I say very minor sloppiness coming from Endgame against RSK. And again, it's a very small differential, but it is big enough to make a large impact here. Little miscommunications, one person slipping up, revealing themselves too soon, and that could cause a lot to happen. And so, realistically, how does this go? I don't know, but it's going to be little tiny things, little tiny mistakes, and I think we've seen a little bit of a track record from Endgame that, I don't know, maybe there's something to be worried about here for them.
Yeah, I mean, when you're playing at this level, it really is all about those details. It's about those small things. It's about the sort of stuff that very rarely makes a difference in your games at home.
Yeah.
Because, you know, usually, you'll usually have someone in the lobby that's probably not supposed to be there. That's maybe not quite as equipped for the level of play that they're into as everyone else.
Yeah.
Or you'll have someone who sticks out significantly above the rest because, you know, it's nice to keep things a little fresh, but sometimes the variety of Dead by Daylight is in your teammates just as much as anything else. But at this level of play, those small things, like understanding just playing it safe in the early game against an Oni, like just hiding, collectively understanding that you need to just wait out his power. It's okay to let those gens regress a little bit or just to prevent that progress, because it is so much more important to prevent that snowball.
Yeah. I think that was a sort of discipline that we saw from RSK, and that is being able to go, you know what, he's going to pop a gen, it's going to continue to regress, that's fine, because after he's out of that power, if we can just throw the few pallets we have left, we can deny that for longer than what it cost us to get here, right? And that's really not just seeing what's immediately in front of you, but being able to forecast ahead, and then everybody execute on those details and having trust in your teammates to not go down. I am seeing really good stuff from both sides. Again, Endgame has not been bad this entire. It's 7-7.
Not at all. Yeah, I know we've sort of been praising RSK's Survivor here, but Endgame's team play has been nothing to scoff at.
Yeah, I mean, going back to it, Spirit on Endgame's side was such a strong first start. RSK getting just a little bit better RNG with that Haunted Ground proccing a little bit soon, but still,
that was wild.
The point values really at the end of the day are the same. Again, it boils down to, like, if we have to pull out the magnifying glass to see the differences, both teams are on an incredible caliber here. So we're just hoping that Endgame can rise to that challenge a little bit, as they have had, I feel like, to warm up this weekend, RSK having a little bit more screen time to kind of shake off the jitters.
Yeah, and so I'm really interested in seeing if we see another Oni coming in on the second half of Rotten Fields.
Yeah.
Because we can't see a Billy, we can't see a Spirit. Both teams have banned both for their opponents.
I think Spirit's, or I think Nurse is a little bit dicey on this map.
Yeah, I mean, I know that corn blindness on Nurse is just killer.
So easy to hide, really. Yeah.
And even just sometimes if you accidentally blink into one of those rows of corn and you just lose all visibility, and admittedly, you know, if you're playing at the level of like these small micro optimizations that we are seeing, you know, you would hope to avoid that. But I mean, especially, we've been talking about this before, that the control scheme definitely makes all of the inputs you have to do to play that high-level Nurse, it's so much more difficult to have that same level of precision as you might see on other platforms.
Yeah, I think to be able to play Nurse, you know, you have to hit the button to charge your ability, hit the button again to send it, then you have to be able to look around and then swing last minute. I think there's a lot going in, and leaving it a little bit more up to chance, being able to blink into corn or have somebody dead hard, but you're not sure if they even dead hard because there's enough stuff in the way. And you have to think on Rotten Fields, right, there's always a visual barrier.
Rotten Fields
everywhere.
Nurse is just so miserable. I have nightmares of playing Nurse on Rotten Fields.
Yeah, it's not easy. Whereas again, we're talking about consistency. We're talking about Oni being able to come out here. It is a lot harder to get his power. There's so many pallets, but
yeah, especially we saw a lot of those double pallet jungle gyms too. But that's like we had talked about. Sort of since all of the pallets are just in a ring around the outside of the map. I mean, aside from the shack pallet, obviously. You end up with a lot more of those double pallet tiles just because there are fewer tiles to put pallets in.
You know, I would be interested to see going into this RSK, obviously understanding how to play against Oni, and understanding this map very well, where to put themselves, where on the outskirts of the map to be. I'd be very interested to see if RSK can take what they've learned and what they used in that last match and translate that into what they're going to do with their killer. All right, hey, look, if you play Oni, they may try to do what we did. They may try to hide in these spots and really just trying to exploit that, what seems like knowledge of that map and how to play it. I think there could be something really interesting there. And we've seen that RSK's ability to adapt has been pretty good. Endgame, though, adapt really well. Bringing Oni to Rotten Fields is always going to be a bit of a gamble, so it could be anyone's game, but RSK having played first gives them a bit of a leg up in how they influence their next match.
Yeah, and I mean, going into this second half of Game 2, we are 7-7. The score is tied up between these two teams, and so this could be the deciding factor in the series. If we have a not 2-2 outcome here, if we have anything other than a 2K, one way or the other, that's going to be the series.
Yeah, I mean, really, yeah, what we're talking about is if there is a 2K, that's going to put us at a 9-9, which would be interesting to even match head-to-head. That would throw it to a Game 3 with a third ban coming out, which probably would be Oni.
Yeah, I mean, from what we've been seeing, it wouldn't surprise me if we see another Oni for this killer game, and then if we go to Game 3 of this series, we'd see Oni bans coming out from both sides. That wouldn't be surprising.
Exactly. So I think what we would end up seeing is going to a third round, third map pick, but then having Oni ban, seeing if it's Nurse, or if we're going to see weirder stuff sort of spiraling out from that sort of scenario.
Yeah, if we see maybe another Plague, maybe another Hag.
Yep.
I mean, though our Hag's performances have seemed to be very inconsistent.
Yeah.
I would be kind of curious to see what the strategy is for the Hag player going into these later matches, if in theory at some point we get one.
Yeah, I think, especially with Hag, right? The weaker a killer gets, the more consistent and the stronger you have to be as a player. You really have to be able to fine-tune every move you make. You know, what we saw with the Plague is you can't come in here with Plague and miss your first 6 or 7 attempts at a trail, and you can't sit and try to fully infect, right? You have to really be hammered in on the strategies that are going to be most effective in a team that is trying to split up and split pressure.
Yeah, and especially Plague being a relatively rare killer, right? When you're playing in your games at home, your teammates have probably never played against an expert Plague. No. And so they don't really, most people see her so rarely and don't necessarily think about the game at that higher level.
Yep.
Where, you know, if you're used to just playing Plague in your public matches, you're probably not prepared for the strategies that a team like this will bring out.
Yeah, I mean, and that's, we talked about it yesterday. Plague is a really strong potential pick because it does negate that sort of capability to use medkits to heal yourselves in lieu for something a little bit different. But again, it's dicey. You know, we saw a Hag come out yesterday that seemed confident and really could execute on very little. The amount of teamwork that actually went into the Hag match yesterday, you know, the Hag engaging with a Fung, placing a trap at a loop, and then a Meg just beelining.
Yeah, immediately disarming that trap just to protect her team.
Yeah.
And it really does go to show why at this high level you only really see significant success from killers with very strong chase powers, at least consistently.
Yeah.
Killers like that you see, you know, like Spirits and Onis and Billies with that wild turning. That those are the killers that are consistently able to not just, you know, get some chases and get a 1 or a 2K, but actually win these games. Because when survivors are playing this safe at this level of efficiency on those generators, there's sort of a ceiling for how much a lot of the killers in Dead by Daylight are able to do against teams of this caliber.
Yeah, and it goes back to, I mean, the weaker the killer is that you choose, the more dialed in you have to be. But then at some point, you know, if you come in here with like a ghost face, even if you're incredibly dialed in, you still have a kind of a cap, a hard limit on how much you can do. You can't throw a
just
hatchet.
by the numbers.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, by the time you finally get it down, you're gonna have to shoot through all the resources and almost all the gens, right?
Oh, and so I am very curious to see what the strategy is here, because we are going to be seeing a Wraith coming out from RSK's killer. I wonder what the strategy is here. Maybe just recognizing that Rotten Fields is a pretty big map, trying to make some good use of that mobility.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting. We've seen 2 different Wraiths. One that played
two very different Wraiths.
Yeah, one was exposed with Make Your Choice, Haunted Grounds, Noed, and then the other Wraith was Call of Brine and Eruption. The second being far less effective at getting downs, far less pressure coming out from that killer. So I would be interested to see if this leans heavier towards maybe more traditional builds, Pop, Ruin, etc., or is this going to push itself a little bit more towards those exposed perks? We are going to dive in here. RSK versus Endgame. RSK is playing killer. Endgame is going to be contesting as Survivor. We need more than a 2K for RSK to clinch this one.
Yeah, okay. It seems like we are seeing a bit more of a traditional build.
Yeah, a little half and half.
Yeah, I think we see Corrupt and Pop here, as well as Know It and Make Your Choice. So a little bit of both of those sort of game plans that we had seen. And I have to say, I'm personally a big fan of Make Your Choice on Wraith. Because your mobility in Cloak allows you to just make so much distance from that hook so quickly to very consistently get Make Your Choice to activate on the person who unhooked.
Now, we do see a really smart strategy from the Wraith. You know, with Corrupt Intervention up, he knows that he can get in chase really fast, loop that Claudette around, who played incredibly immaculately. Meg getting hit here, actually.
Yeah, but you saw the Survivor crouching next to the gen, where the killer just didn't recognize who it was that had made that gen progress.
Yeah, it's interesting here because, you know, like I said, we know the Wraith is like, okay, well, I've started chase, which means they know they're going to be on gens, so I need to sort of reverse engineer this for my benefit. Is this going to be a swing? And that is a down at the pallet. That's a really good mind game at a very strong tile.
Yeah, a very quick first down here for our Wraith, and we're going to start to see that pop Make Your Choice cycle coming into play.
Now, he is going to cloak up, going to get that fast kick here. Well, okay, no add-ons, so we have to assume that this is going to be, movement speed add-ons.
That looks like double windstorm. He is that is a very fast fill-up.
Yeah, so right now he is waiting for Make Your Choice. He is going to sort of corral this Fung here. Probably get the hit at the window. They fake it, but he
still
gets
the
anyway.
hit.
Yeah.
Good correction to recognize that she had sort of faked that window and to pull that swing a little bit away.
Now we do. Oh, wow. He goes kind of the long way around. Going to come back on the Fung, and they have no idea Make Your Choice is in play.
Interesting. I wonder if there's maybe a bit of a miscommunication here, because our Wraith is trying to stay just out of Make Your Choice range. I mean, that's going to be very obvious right about now as that unhook comes through. But this is a very big opportunity for our killer to potentially build some pressure. If he can make another hero play here at the cow tree and get the down on this Make Your Choice target, this could be huge.
Yeah, this could be a big deal. They are going to play this safe and just sort of pre-throw that. That's nothing new, nothing to be unexpected. But they are going to continue to play the window.
She zoned herself into the corner here, though.
Right.
This is a pretty big mistake from Claudette. She's going to go down.
Yeah, this is kind of what we talked about. The Survivor differential here is just different enough that this team would do really well in pubs and win most of their games. But, you know, going back towards the window against a Wraith with Make Your Choice when you're exposed is definitely a tough spot when you want to try to make distance towards really any other pallet that you can. But always a tough spot to be in, and sometimes you just don't get that option either if there's nothing over there.
Yeah, it can be tough. Maybe a bit of a late recognition of that pallet break, considering our killer did sort of fake as if he was going to go around and then come back and break that pallet. Maybe just pushing that Claudette a little bit into that corner initially, but then just her not recognizing that he was actually breaking that pallet and making her way to a tile that did have a resource to work with.
We do see the Wraith being really territorial here. He did have somebody on hook, and he is sort of parading around that hook, but he did miss the gen that's in the tile back there. That is
maybe a little bit of a fake out here on the ace, too, making him think that he was going to switch targets, but instead sticking around.
Getting a good hit there. No dead hard coming from ace.
Yeah, and just a little bit of overconfidence here. Just healing completely out in the open, just under the pure assumption that the killer had left you alone. That is a very, very bold decision, and frankly, one I love to see punished. That's always so satisfying, getting those survivors who were just a little bit overconfident and just, you know, giving them a taste of, you know, hey, you're not infallible, right? Like, this is a mistake, and you are going to get punished for it.
Yeah, I'm really fascinated to see sort of endgame here get consistently thrown off course by the Wraith. Again, like what you'd pointed out, like healing where there is no pallet to save you in the event that you need one. These are mistakes that typically do not fly in this setting, and the Wraith is making sure that the survivors know that. And is this the Make Your Choice target?
Oh, wow, getting hit through the sprint burst and still dropping the pallet. That's, again, just those small mistakes, right? Like, just even the Meg doing something that you see a lot in public games too is those survivors who are saving their sprint burst, right? And they're just walking and walking and walking as you get closer to them instead of sprinting and using the sprint burst to gain that initial distance. And I think this is also 3 Unbreakables having been used at this point in the match.
Yeah, really good job from the Claudette there using Unbreakable. We did see the Fung sort of working on the gen, not even worrying about healing or kind of showing off like, hey, there's an Unbreakable here. I don't need to worry about them. And that should kind of be the indicator to the Wraith, like, okay, this is pretty obvious. They're forecasting what could happen here. And this might not be enough. The Wraith is going to need to get this hook and get over there. I just don't think he has the time to do that.
Yeah, I mean, that gen's going to pop right about now. And, yep, there it is. So I wonder, is he going to be able to actually down this Fung quickly enough to potentially get back and contest the unhook? It's The pallet is still up at this tile, so yeah, she's just going to play it safe and throw that. Just little nodders and pointing, you know, just to say, hey, I see you.
Yeah, there's a lot going on here where the Wraith had a lot of great built-up pressure, but playing a little bit more into the Unbreakables has been a little bit tough. Is going to try to use the Pop Goes the Weasel he can right now.
Yeah, it almost seems like he's been trying to, like, burn those sort of pickups early. Because you have to know that, you know, having been around for the earlier parts of this tournament, that there are multiple, usually 2 to 3 Unbreakables on every team, a bunch of decisive strikes, and I don't understand what's going on here, why he would just down her. Because you're not getting back in time to contest that gen. That's getting done.
Yeah, I think the big thing here was the attempt at getting sort of, you know...
the down survivor is Death Hook as well. I'm not really sure I understand the decision-making here.
Decisive strike.
Oh, yeah, that'll
playing
do
around
it.
Decisive. I mean,
Yeah.
he did bait the Dead Hard. He knows that she has Sprint Burst and has Unbreakable, but really from there, it's a bit of a gamble that he's just going to try to secure the 1, and that's not going to be enough.
No, you need 3 kills here.
Yeah.
1 is just not going to cut it.
Wraith is going to be the gamble. No way out here means that Noed is really not even incredibly valuable. That's the DS. Yep, that's what he was worried about the whole time. That is a wild turn of events. We saw some sloppier plays coming out of endgame, but at the end of the day, the weaker killer is, I think, what kind of sewed this up, and that's going to be kind of it for RSK's time here in the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, we saw a lot of great plays in the early game, but our killer was just not able... I mean, I say that as this game is not over yet.
Yeah, I mean, if he can catch the ace at the other door for some reason...
I mean, I can't imagine that's going to happen. He has not even 10 seconds. I mean, no, that door's getting open. He's going to have to just take his 1 and call it a day here. Because, yeah, I see no reason for our ace to stay in this match. They know their win condition. They're just going to play it safe.
Yep.
And they're just going to walk their way right on out of here.
And this should be Fung popping the Unbreakable.
No, she already used it.
See,
this is what I was talking about, right? He was burning those Unbreakables. He was slugging people and letting them pick themselves up just out of the worry about Decisive Strike. But the thing is that when you have both the Decisive Strike and the Unbreakable, there's really no good decision to make from the killer. Like, both options are losing.
I actually think that looking at this build, I think that playing into Make Your Choice was not a bad idea, but I think that waiting for Make Your Choice and slugging and then really trying to force it was kind of a problem more so than taking those hooks while you could and then, you know, then going back to it, kind of what we've seen previously. So.
Yeah, there was definitely some room to try and get a tag, build some other pressure, and then come back and take advantage of that Make Your Choice. But this is going to be endgame taking the win in this series and is going to be moving on in this match.
Surprising me.
Yeah, though RSK is not out of this tournament yet.
Nope.
They are going to be dropping down to the lower bracket, and we will be seeing them again later.
Yeah, we'll be seeing them tomorrow to figure out who is in losers, who wins losers finals, really, right? So here in a little bit, we're going to bring you 4 a.m. versus Rarity, and we are going to kind of see who advances from there and is going to go on to go against RSK. So, you know, interesting show. I'm a little bit thrown off. Like I said, the survivor capability seemed quite off kilter there at the beginning of that Wraith match.
Yeah, they were definitely, you know, definitely getting away with murder in that match. Our survivors were. I mean, there were some very fundamental mistakes, but I think this is sort of what we were talking about with that sort of ceiling of like the killer limitations, right?
Yeah.
That if you know we had seen something like Oni being played, then it's very possible that we would have seen much more ability to capitalize and snowball off of those mistakes. Yeah. Whereas the Wraith just, while you have that consistent mobility, right? While you have that consistent ability to get close, like close that initial distance a bit and, you know, force maybe a pallet or a window vault very early, maybe even get a hit for free. Yeah. You just don't have that same ability to snowball off of those individual mistakes by the survivors.
Your chases are by default longer, right? You know, you have to hit, and then you have to catch up and hit again. And even if that's just a 6-second hit, which is really good, it's not an instant down, right?
Yeah, so we are going to move into some highlights from this match. Yeah, I remember this was one of those moments that, yeah, this is just that double pallet jungle gym just makes things so tough. And yeah, the Dwight recognizing that the Oni's going to come through, just playing it safe.
Yeah, really smart plays from the Dwight here initially, just being really, really safe. Getting a good whiff, just buying a little extra time. I mean, nothing bad here. Of course, we do see the
yeah, they hit
Demon
through
Dash.
the window there. That's tough.
Yeah.
Recognizing also that I believe it's about 0.4 seconds between when you first use your power, when you first pull up that Kanabo, and when you can swing it for that instant down as Oni, because you don't have to fully charge it. As soon as you see that sort of visual fire flare prompt, that's all you need to get that instant downswing.
Yeah, we did see some really good downs from the Oni. Like I said, it was that sort of war of attrition. We're going to see here at the Wraith really good first down, getting sort of the psych out there, getting the mind game, getting the down on Meg. Again, something that I would not have expected them to be able to do. And we're seeing the sort of pallet break here, the Claudette corralling herself in the corner.
Yeah, and it was very interesting, too, to see the difference in the sort of meta between these two teams, with RSK's survivors bringing all of the dead hards, and then endgame survivors bringing all sprint bursts.
And maybe this is a preparation for latency, but maybe this is a skill thing as well, just the comfortability and how capable they are to pull off dead hard, saying, you know, it's not worth the risk, we're just going to do sprint burst.
Just take advantage of that initial distance, especially on a map like Rotten Fields with a lot of dead space.
Yeah.
Sometimes you really desperately need that initial distance to make it to a tile. Because, for example, we saw the Meg working on that gen in the corn, and she was just sitting there. She could not have gotten to anything without that sprint burst.
And then she got hit anyway, so it didn't matter.
I mean, yeah, but that was on her. If she had just actually run right from the get-go instead of just sitting there, walking slowly, staring lovingly into the Wraith's eyes, you know, maybe she wouldn't have gotten hit and she would have made that pallet.
Yeah. So, I mean, moving forward, we're going to be, like I said, playing. We'll be back. We're going to be looking at 4 a.m. versus Rarity in the next set. Best of 3. Going to be sort of examining these two teams. 4 a.m. has been really dominant. You know,
they've been playing phenomenally.
Yeah, really surprised. Good. I don't know, really good time to be watching Dead by Daylight Mobile, just looking at these two teams, looking at the teams we've seen today. I don't know what to expect coming up.
Yeah, and also keep in mind that throughout the stream, we are going to be giving out a bunch of codes for blood points and other goodies in-game, so keep your eyes on the chat. Especially while we don't have any gameplay in this next 10-minute break coming up. We will be back after that with, like you said, 4 a.m. versus Rarity. So stay tuned, and we will be right back.
And welcome back to the, I don't know, day before the last day, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, the penultimate day, I think, is if we're trying to get pull out the SAT words for it.
Yeah, I only took the ACT. So we're here for Knights of Terror. My name is Dylan. I'm here with...
Steven.
Yeah.
We've been your hosts for the last week and a half.
Yeah, it's been a long tournament, and we're going into our sort of final set today. We're going to be looking at 4 a.m. versus Rarity in the losers bracket. We are going to be waiting for our sort of map selection to come through here, but taking a look at the bracket real fast, I mean, we're seeing 4 a.m. and Rarity. RSK dropping the last match is going to be going on to the losers bracket for losers finals tomorrow.
Yeah, so they will be facing the winner of this match tomorrow at, I believe it's 5:30 Eastern?
Yeah, I don't know.
It's hard to read from here. 4 p.m. Eastern, I believe, is the... And then 5:30 p.m. Eastern is going to be grand finals.
Yeah, and you know what's really interesting? If you look at the bracket, RSK knocked 4 a.m. out of the game. 4 a.m. went to losers because of RSK, and there could be a bit of a grudge match tomorrow if 4 a.m. can pull this off.
Yeah, I would love to see that. That would make for a great little storyline in this tournament.
Yeah, exactly. So, really, in terms of commonalities we've seen throughout this entire tournament, we have seen Billy bans, we've seen Spirit bans, so we've seen a lot of Onis and Wraith, obviously.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of Wraiths with mixed success.
So, we're going into this next one. We're kind of resetting. We're coming back to home base.
Speaking of commonalities, things we've seen a lot of through this tournament, we are going to be going to Wrecker's Yard for this Game 1.
Yeah, I mean, shocking nobody, unless you're new here.
Yeah, we have seen a lot of Wrecker's Yard. I would love to, go back through the VODs of this tournament later and just see, what the pick rate of Wrecker's Yard is. Because I feel like I live here now. I might as well, set up a bed in the basement of Shack, right?
Yeah, I mean, from what we've seen from Wrecker's Yard is we've seen a lot of commanding killer wins, right? It's a smaller map. It is a little bit easier for them to control generators across the sort of 3-gen spread. So we've noticed a lot of, even last game, 5-0, 5-0.
Yeah.
And that is kind of what I expect to see out of these teams. They're both very strong teams, so I expect pretty commanding wins unless we play a little off the wall, do something a little goofy, which could happen.
Yeah, I mean, hey, we saw a Wraith getting so much value from Make Your Choice in Haunted Grounds. Anything's possible if you believe in the power of friendship, right?
Yeah, Kingdom Hearts, something or another. So going into this one, I'm personally, I don't know exactly what the killer bans are. I'm expecting with Wrecker's Yard, I'm just expecting Billy to be out for the rest of this tournament.
Yeah, Billy has been banned pretty consistently for the last couple of days. And, I mean, Billy was the first ban from both teams in the previous match.
Yeah.
Yeah, also interesting to note, you see 2 purple med kits, 2 green med kits. So I wonder that sort of mix
for
of
speed.
Yeah, that mix of healing quantity and healing speed coming through. And we do have confirmation from our team in production that both teams have banned Billy.
Womp womp.
And surprise, surprise, we are going to be seeing a Spirit coming out from 4 a.m.
Yeah, so 4 a.m. killing first. Rarity sort of playing Survivor on the defensive first. Our Spirits today have been good. In the days past, I would not have said that. But today, they are showing up with consistency.
Yeah, throughout the tournament, we've seen Spirit being pretty hit or miss. But in today's matches, we've been seeing consistently very solid results from our Spirits.
This is worth noting.
Interesting, no Corrupt.
Yeah, tangentially, they're just diving in here with Pop, Ruin, and then No Way Out, No Ed. So they're really just front-loading, hoping that Ruin can do some work for them.
Yeah, though they do have some of that sort of insurance policies through the mid and late game with the Pop, No Way Out, and No Ed. They are definitely not going to be out of the game if the early game doesn't go their way, that's for sure.
Yeah, they already have their first hit, and 1 gen at 34%. To be expected at this point, 1 gen just sort of climbing 21, 22%. We are going to see a good pallet throw here. Are we
Dead hard to the pallet, respecting the speed of the phase.
Now, what's interesting is to see the Spirit not break some of these pallets. They are going for that very first down, but we have seen in the past that Spirits that refuse to break pallets are Spirits that do not do well in these matches.
Yeah, though we have been seeing that the pallets that our survivor was dropping in that first chase were not super well connected to one another. An interesting miss, a good spin, some fancy footwork coming out from Claudette, but the second swing does connect.
Yeah, we are seeing gens kind of regress a little bit. Hex Ruin being allowed to do some of its work, and this is really what you need to do. Hex Ruin does not last long in matches as it can be cleansed out via a totem, and so the killer does need to spread out and just get it to do some work now before it's gone.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about spreading this pressure, though. I think the idea is to sort of trade those medkit charges for some ruin value, potentially. But you do see the survivors are not healing just yet and instead opting to work on gens.
Yeah, this is interesting. A very different dynamic from the RSK match we had versus Endgame where healing came out immediately. I mean, I think maybe the strategy here for the Spirit is like, look, if you're healing, you're not cleansing my totem. So.
And you're not doing those, and you're not doing the gens either.
Exactly. So I don't think this is a bad idea. If they can get some of those follow-up hits really fast here, I think they could do something really interesting. Wow, fast unhook coming out from the Dwight, the only healthy survivor here.
Yeah, but we do see sort of that similar game plan of like keeping this side of the map under control, because this is the side of the map we see our Spirit on right now has sort of been the favored control area for killers in general that we've been seeing lately on Rotten Fields.
Yeah.
Though I'm assuming there's going to be a DS here.
Decisive strike.
Yep, there it is.
We do see Claudette healing with that green med kit.
Yeah, getting the gen done first, though, recognizing that the killer is going to want to focus out this Nia, that first hook, just to get into that early game 3v1 as quickly as possible. I'm expecting an early pallet throw here. Ooh, but getting hit through it.
And that's going to be a basement hit for stage 2, or basement hook, should I say.
See, I don't know. You'd be surprised, because we haven't been seeing killers utilize the basement that much, instead opting for the map control, right? That pressure of having the hook inside of their, like, the area they're trying the hardest to control, right? Sort of amplifying that pressure by allowing them to pressure the hook and their favored gens simultaneously.
I'm really interested to see here, sort of going into this, the tunnel DS being out of the way. This is a very old school mindset of just getting this one person out as soon as they can.
Yeah, it's a bit risky, but the thing is, the borrowed time coming through,
Really
saving
good
her
job.
for a little while longer. And now we start to see the teammates rolling in. We see Sharky coming in, just trying to body block for his teammate. And the thing is, I wonder how well this will work. We'll see. Because our killer is sort of committing a lot of time to this chase. And this could potentially cause some problems because we're seeing 3 gens done.
Yeah, the interesting thing here is like, okay, yes, they have to come out here and they're going to try to get somebody out of the game. The match to that for survivors is, okay, I need to body block now for my teammate, but then that's fewer people on the gen, more people healing. It is going to waste their medkit charges. This could have a ripple effect. They understand that if Nia goes down just like this, then this could really, even with 3 gens done, kind of be it with Ruin still up.
Yeah, this I'm expecting to, go right back into that zone of control, because one thing that people seem to have, one thing that people don't consider when it comes to the basement is the time investment of carrying someone down there and then walking back up those stairs.
My counter argument there is that now one of their most famous and precious hooks is gone.
That is an important hook out of the way,
Yeah.
but it's also so important to make sure you're getting that ruin value to be pressuring those survivors off the gens.
Yeah.
And often the primary value of a hook in the basement is not necessarily just the hook itself, but also your intention to camp and maintain pressure on that hook, because that's where the basement is providing the most value.
Now, we do see the Spirit taking what I would consider to be a dicey chase, knowing that their gens are really on the other side of the map. I think there's a confidence that they can close this out, and they do. Good
Swinging
dead hard.
through the dead hard, though.
Yeah.
Just a little bit more patience from the Spirit than we see from the Fung. Like, that swing just a little bit late. It's like sort of allowing the hitbox of the swing to still be active after the invincibility frames of the dead hard are over.
Yeah, this is really interesting. We see Ruin up, and anytime we've seen Ruin last longer than the first dead survivor, that has really spelled doom for a team that has to play the unhooking game, play that sort of merry-go-round musical
Oh, wow,
chairs.
she's going to be able to stop this gen from getting completed. It's like 95%.
And this is the survivor who opted to stay injured because they had the green medkit. They can only heal once, and that is going to be a really big difference from what we've seen in prior games.
Yeah, and that gen that was at like 90, 95%, regressing at 80 and dropping.
Yeah.
And this is like you had said, where that Ruin being active just becomes such a killer for our survivors. Because anytime someone has to get off of gens to go get an unhook or heal someone, that's gen progress lost to Ruin.
Yeah, we are seeing a really good cleanup job here from the Spirit, just taking out all the mind games, all the kind of BS here, and just going right for the survivors and understanding, like, okay, if I get these pallets out of the way, I have to do a lot less work. It's going to make my job easier, and there's less risk in taking this little bit of time here.
Yeah, and now we can really start to see our killer build pressure because they've chewed through a lot of those medkit charges, they've broken a lot of those pallets. The resources that the survivors have to recover this game are becoming more and more limited by the moment.
Really interesting strategy here to go and hit and go for the Claudette, but then come back to the Fung after proccing the borrow time. I feel like Claudette would have been the pick there, knowing they're injured. But
yeah, though I think potentially even just wanting to like amplify that ruin value a little bit more, right? Because the time you have to spend mending, you can't be doing gens, and you have to mend.
We do see Ruin getting cleansed out right there. Looks like by the Claudette who had to mend.
Yeah.
So they are going to go down. That is going to seal this game up pretty well. There could be an Unbreakable in the pocket, though it does not look like it from our end. And that is going to make the Dwight have to do a tremendous amount of work. And this is a very commanding start to this.
Yeah, I mean, Dwight did still have a heal left in his med kit. And the Spirit has not seen him. But the thing is, with having a hook and a slug within 20 meters of each other, there's a lot of pressure in this area of the map, and the Dwight needs to get here ASAP.
We are going to see maybe a drop come from the Spirit. There it is.
She saw him. She saw the Dwight.
So that's the big thing is, like, if the killers picked up a survivor, then there is a little bold play.
Was that? No. Oh, the attempt at the pickup. Okay.
Yeah, maybe a little bit left on the med kit there.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, the big thing is if a survivor is being carried, then you know that you are more likely to go get that unhook as the killer is slowed down, can't use their power, things like that. But that's where the killer uses that as bait and says, "Okay, I'm going to drop now. I know where you are."
Yeah, and now we're really just getting into that death spiral. Like, you see the gens regressing. I mean, the Ruin Totem is gone now, and so any gen progress the survivors make is relatively permanent. But everyone injured. The two of the three living survivors on Death Hook. This is a very tough spot for our survivor team to be in, and I'm thinking, at this point, I think it's theoretically possible for them to make their way out those gates. But the thing is, with no way out in play too, and at least 3 tokens on it, maybe 4. Oh, I don't envy them. This is going to be tough.
No, this is going to be a Hail Mary, get to the basement, get the chest, get a key.
Someday we'll see it.
Yes, someday. Maybe not this tournament, but maybe a different tournament. I'll be sure to tweet you. Good decisive strike there coming from the Fung, and that's going to allow just a little bit more time from our survivors. They're not even bothering to heal. They know that, like, it doesn't matter too much. That's wasted time. They just got to see if they can get these gens done.
Yeah, because that 16 seconds you spend healing is about 20 seconds of potential gen progress, right? From each survivor as well. And at this point, all the medkit charges are probably gone. I really don't think they have those resources to stay independent like they have for the earlier stages of this match.
Right. And
so at this point, gen progress is going to be more and more important relative to your health states, because now with Fung dead, Dwight is able to finish a gen, and Claudette has a gen about to be done, and that's all 5.
Yeah, I mean, that's not bad. I mean, this may not be. I mean, it will be.
But the thing is, there's still
no way out.
Yeah, Claudette is still missing some critical information here.
And that is going to be no way out proccing, and that's going to lock the exit gate so the survivor can't leave.
Oh, no, and the Spirit's walking over towards that door. Yeah, this is looking like it's going to be wraps for our friends here.
Ooh, and is this a wiggle out?
No.
That was so close. That was to the last second there.
Yeah. Oh, the Iron Will buying the Claudette just a fraction of a second to, try and unhook Dwight. But, yeah, I mean, he's going to take his attempts. She's going to give him a little playful smack, say, hey, come on, you got to go for it.
There we go. And that is going to be a really good start for 4AM coming out here, swinging strong with their Spirit.
5 points on the board for 4AM with the 4K here.
Yeah. I'm pretty impressed right there. Their Spirit mastery is really, really strong. I think a critical error from Rarity is leaving that Hex Ruin up too long and being too conservative with those early game heals. It allowed just some easy downs to cascade out very, very quickly.
Yeah, because it can be, like, there's almost a certain sort of critical mass, right, where you end up with, like, you have, say, 3 survivors injured, 1 on a hook, where you just so desperately need to burn those resources just to keep the team afloat and just to not let that pressure build to a catastrophic degree. But by that point, especially with Ruin active, even just to dissipate the pressure that you have on you to burn those medkits, to burn those unbreakables, to get the team sort of back on their feet, you end up sacrificing so much gen progress to do that.
Yeah, it's really interesting knowing that there's no corrupt intervention, which is, I think, one of the first times we've seen that since our first sort of top brackets, the single eliminations. You know, really as a team, you go up and you should do the gen check, right, for Ruin, right? You work on the gen for just a second, and if you hop off of it and it regresses passively, okay, Ruin's in play. And maybe for a minute until it was too late, maybe nobody did that.
Yeah.
And so knowing how potent Ruin is if you end up playing musical chairs with the hooks, I'm surprised nobody got on it early and nobody healed, right? It was kind of a moment of like, okay, so we're just going to try to power through everything here in a tournament?
And powering through a full 5 gens against a Spirit who was playing as well as 4AM's Spirit was playing.
On records.
Yeah, that's just that's just not the play. I mean, we saw in that last match, it didn't work out for him.
And, you know, really that could be, that could kind of be because of the haunted grounds we've seen in the past, of the past few matches.
It's a big risk.
It is a huge risk. Yeah, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
I think personally, I think that is going to be a little tough, and that might set the pace for Rarity. Rarity's killer needs to come out here and at least tie this up to even have a hope of this going to a 3.
Yeah, it is important to keep in mind that in these best of 3 series, the score is not based on an individual map. So right now, the series score is 5-0 in favor of 4AM. This next match could go 5-0 in favor of Rarity. Then we'd have a tie. Then we would have a tie in that first match going into game 2. And then overall, so Rarity needs to make up effectively 6 points over the course of effectively 3 more games of Dead by Daylight. Though in the context of this tournament, each match you would play is half of 1 game.
To boil it down, watch the points. Realistically, it's 1 games, 1 and 2, and the next map 1 and 2, and then if the point values are absolutely tied, we go into a game 3. We're going to see that stacked 3rd ban coming from each team. It's going to be a lot of, that happened, and that was kind of shocking from our prior set. Do we see that here? Do we see that 3rd sort of ban? Do we see that desperation Wraith pick or something more interesting? I mean, we might, but right now it seems like 4AM has a strong command. It doesn't mean that Rarity's out. Rarity obviously might just be warming up for all we know. They are about to kill next, and who knows? We haven't seen them for a while. They maybe have done their homework, done some studying, done some scrimming to try to figure out what works best. And knowing that Wrecker's Yard is really popular, right? There's no way these teams don't see that. There's no way they don't identify. Maybe they've figured something out that we haven't seen yet, right? Like with the Iridescent Head Huntress.
I mean, that was definitely a wild card pick, the Eerie Head Huntress. That was not something I expected to see in this tournament. And that definitely felt like something of a, not even necessarily a desperation pick, but just something to throw your opponents off their game, right? Because you can end up very much in this sort of, you have this understanding of how the game plays out in your scrims, in your matches, and then someone does something that's just so completely off the wall that you're just not prepared for it.
Yeah.
Like you just don't, you don't have that preparation, right? You don't necessarily have in your head that existing plan of like, okay, we're going up against a Huntress, they're going to have so-and-so add-ons, this is how they're going to play, oh shit, they have Eerie Head. Now what?
Yeah. I mean, that's even, thinking about a potential Huntress. I think most of these teams are going in here saying, okay, we're going to see Spirit. How do we play really well against Spirit? How do we play really well against Oni?
That's why you're seeing the prevalence of those Iron Wills is because there's so much Spirit. Spirit is so prevalent. And though over this whole tournament, Spirit has been kind of inconsistent, giving kind of feast or famine results, so far today, we've seen consistently fantastic Spirit play.
Yeah, we have seen great spirits come out every time we've seen one, which again is just such a stark contrast from what we've seen in days prior, where there has been a lot of, well, good start, but you kind of just lost yourself in the middle. And so really seeing that consistency as we hit those top semifinals, finals, it's going to get better in terms of these killer plays. I don't think we've seen a killer yet that has played poorly or has not been able to capitalize. Obviously, incredible teams making the benchmark that has been set, earning their place here, really.
Yeah, and this is also keeping in mind that all of the teams that have entered this tournament, even the teams who are no longer in their brackets, who have been sent home, did make their way here through a 128-team bracket. So every single team who is here has very much earned their place.
Yeah, long days. Long days. So this is 4 a.m. again, 4 a.m. versus Rarity. This is match 1B on Wrecker's Yard. And we're going to see kind of how Rarity matches. Really strong start from 4 a.m.'s killer. I think that right now they know they have to at least, really, if it were me, like, we got to get the 4K. We got to be sure that we're not just giving away any points we can.
Yeah, and 4 a.m. Survivor yesterday was looking pretty clean.
Yeah.
And so I would be very interested in seeing how Rarity's killer fares against that.
I mean, even 4 a.m. against RSK, a great team that we just saw play, and 4 a.m. fought really hard to stay in there.
That was a close series. That was a very close series.
So knowing that RSK and 4am are so close, and I mean RSK just barely getting bumped down, I think that Rarity has a lot to prove here. And I think that they have to have a really good answer. Obviously, this just being the first match, we have potentially 2 more sets after this. But, you know, you don't want to really drop too early. You want to be sure that you come out swinging.
Yeah, and especially going into this second half of Game 1 with a 5-point differential, ideally, Rarity's killer walks away with a 4K here, bringing it to 5-5, tying it up, and then that way we can sort of go into Game 2 with a clean slate. You know, something I remember back from my high school sports days is something my coach would always tell me is just play your game like the score is 0-0. You know, even if you're in the lead, if you're behind, none of that matters. Just play the best you can and don't let the score get to you.
Yeah, I think that's something really interesting, right? The psychology of going in there nervous, going in there trying to make decisions based on the information you have now versus make decisions based on maybe a more level head, right? Going in there and understanding, okay, this is how a match should go instead of saying, okay, I really got to do this, so I'm going to just camp at the beginning or something of that nature.
Yeah, and so as we are loading into our next match on Wrecker's Yard, we have confirmation that we are going to be seeing an Oni.
Which,
yeah, I mean, not surprising.
Yeah.
We've seen some really phenomenal Oni performances, and we've seen a lot of them.
Yeah.
So I am very excited for this match because, I mean, you know, we've seen a lot of Oni, but I mean, he's one of my favorite killers in the game. I would say Oni is probably like, I have sort of a rotation of 3 killers that I sort of, when I don't know what to play, you know, when I'm just thinking, you know, what am I going to do where I'm going to have fun? Oni's in there. So it has just been such a treat to get to see so much Oni in this tournament.
Yeah, I think Oni, obviously, I think a lot of people have a lot of fun playing against Oni, so it's been really good in a break from what we would see in tournaments past, where Oni does not come up because of the prevalence of other killers. So it's been good to see him come through here. Rarity picking up Oni. Oni's insta-down, his speed on a small enough map. We do see the Corrupt Intervention coming out. Hex Ruin pop, and no one escapes death.
Yeah, all reliable.
This is going to be a consistent build. Ruin being seen very early, probably called out to the team. It is not going to to be safe. That is a bold swing.
That's an ambitious swing.
A mistap, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, maybe just a lot of faith in Kazan having that reach to just maybe smack them over the pallet. You never know. Anything's possible.
So from what we see here, it looks like the Cape might be leaving that area, not identifying the Ruin early, and the Oni's going to leave it, meaning that Ruin's potentially vulnerable. This is a wild pick and a wild play to make here.
Yeah, I mean, that is Shack Pallet down immediately at the start of the game. I mean, the second pallet of the game being Shack Pallet. With 1 gen just reaching over 25% progress. Oh, and the Oni identifying this Kate in a dead zone, and I think she's going to make this pallet, but that's going to be another very early pallet drop.
Yeah, obviously this team playing really, really smart, trying not to give him any of that ability early.
Well,
but
there it is.
Yeah, when you look at these...
Curse. Never fails.
Some of these sort of filler pallets, it was smart to pre-throw it, but unfortunately she would have had to fake, and it's just a 50-50. But again, really, Ruin getting cleansed out very, very early here, not getting tons of value, so it is going to be down to Corrupt and Pop until the no-ed play.
Yeah, I think the survivors maybe not immediately committing to that Ruin Totem, just waiting until the killer has sort of made his presence felt elsewhere on the map, making sure he's not going to be able to come over and interrupt that totem cleanse.
Yeah, he really definitely needs to get another hit here and be able to get his ability, start spreading that pressure, because he is going to lose a gen shortly. 1 at 73%, it looks like, as he starts to chase this Quentin.
Yeah, I'm expecting the pallet drop. Ooh, no, maybe Quentin recognizing he's going to get hit no matter what, deciding not to waste that resource.
Yeah, when you are dealing with latency and things like that, throwing the pallet may not be the easiest choice to make, depending on how close that killer is to you.
Yeah, so we do see him. Okay, he definitely sees Kate here.
That is a
bold
swing that does not connect, actually.
Oh,
sprint burst. Yeah, that sprint burst is going to deny that. But again, with the just like what we said with Quentin, it's going to be a hit through the pallet.
Yeah, it's so difficult to react in time when you have a killer barreling at you at Mach 5, coming around a corner, already swinging. It's just so difficult to recognize. Ooh, wow, that's
really
2 downs.
Great job
I'm expecting a pickup here. This is about as much as you're going to realistically get.
Yeah, really good job from the Oni here, losing 1 gen, but getting the 2 downs.
Yeah, and that's honestly a very, very good start. Trading Ruin and 1 gen for a down and a hook, and especially now you've started to get that snowball rolling. Now you're able to collect some blood around the map, maybe find the location that Survivor healed and pick up a bit of your power from there. And, you can just, this is where it starts, right? It doesn't necessarily start with all 4 survivors down.
No.
These sorts of games, it starts with 1, it starts with 2, it starts with a hit here, a hit there. And then once you get that blood flowing, once you start to get things rolling a little bit, then you have your power more and more throughout the game. This is probably going to be about 90% of his power or so. I'd say maybe a handful more blood orbs, and there it goes.
There it goes, yeah. And he's going to go back to the hook right now, it looks like, which is likely to have at least 2 people near it.
Maybe a little fake out.
Really good job getting the 2nd down here.
And just making sure not to get vacuumed into that pallet, swinging at a bit of an angle, and making sure to space himself a little bit away from the pallet to not snap onto it and break it by accident.
Now the Oni not choosing to pick up there, knowing that like that individual survivor has not been actually... Ooh, that's a rough
bit of a
hitbox.
missed swing.
Yeah.
But still plenty of time left on the power. No urgency quite yet. I mean, I would say you could just break that pallet. There's no need to greed for the down at a dropped pallet like that.
This is going to be precocious here. Can he get the down? Good call out.
Ooh, yes. Well
really
done.
Good drop there.
And again, keeping 2 survivors on the ground, even if it's only for a brief moment, that does so much damage to the team's time efficiency. But you know what else does damage to a team's time efficiency? Yeah, that decisive strike.
Yeah. Now, we do know that the Kate does not have Unbreakable, so anytime she's been picked up, it has been a teammate running out there and wasting a little bit of that gen time. So it's not been a poor choice necessarily from the Oni to pursue that, down them, use them as bait, and then go elsewhere. That's been a fairly solid strategy, but we have to be sure that he's not dropping too much time in between.
Yeah, and we've been seeing a lot of value from those sprint bursts, allowing the survivors to sort of greed those gens a little bit, to stick them for a little bit longer, and still make that distance to a tile with the resources they need to defend themselves.
Ooh,
But an injured survivor here.
He's
That's
choosing
smart.
to go
leaving
for the hit.
orbs, leaving the orbs and taking the hit instead to fill your power bar. That way, at some point later in the match, he knows there will be a stockpile of blood orbs there ready and waiting for him.
We do see the grab here. That's going to force Oni out of his ability, which means he's going to have to go get more blood orbs if he wants to get back in.
Yeah, but he already knows there's a stockpile of orbs waiting for him right at that dump truck whenever he wants it.
He does know that. It's going to be a matter of, does he have the opportunity to walk all the way over there? I mean, he has it more now than he ever will, but he also has Pop Goes the Weasel and other pressures to put on survivors.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely one of those situations where you have to recognize your priorities as a killer. You have to recognize where your time is the most, where your return on investment is highest.
He already has his ability back there because his Demon Dash was not used very much, and that's going to allow him to get right back in his power, and he's going to maybe kind of check this area here, maybe kind of regretting not using Pop there, but...
Yeah, just doing a little loop in the shack. But at this point, I mean, he has the sort of mobility. I expect he'll check the edge of the map here. Ooh.
He's going to miss 2 survivors in that corner, and there's really not a great way to know, but he knows that somebody is still on hook, and so he's going to come back and contest the potential unhook, and this is a really tough time for survivors to not I mean, 2 gens gone if he camps this person to stage 2. This is a pretty devastating spot to put the team in.
Yeah, but also just recognizing just respecting the Oni's mobility. And you see the survivors all the way across the map hiding as soon as they hear him pop that power, because they know he can be here in a matter of seconds.
Yeah, now we do see somebody approaching Shaq, which is going to get caught out.
He sees them.
And that is a sprint burst and a pre-throw. Is he going to play that in time? It's going to be a broken pallet really, really fast, and he's going to be in a position to potentially go right and get those blood orbs, but I think he's going to try to pursue here.
Yeah, I mean, we do have sort of a bit of a reset on the state of the game here, right? The Oni's power gauge being drained to 0. Soon, all 4 survivors healthy once the Nia's done healing with her med kit. And we're seeing the Oni a little bit back to square one here.
Yeah, we also see the Oni, if you look at the gen spread right now, there's only 1 gen on this side of the map. It's kind of a weird choice to kind of come all the way out here when your presence is better used pushing people elsewhere on the other side of the map. Checking just the 1 odd man out gen. Ooh, that's a rough whiff. It's a tough spot to put yourself in. It's a choice that I'm not sure what it's informed by.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're definitely going to see, a little bit of maybe desperation, because, I see that's the difference between having and not having the power. But now 3 gens are done with 2 more at half progress or more. This is a bit of a tough spot, and our Oni really needs to make something happen here.
Yeah, we're going to need to see some survivors really slip up. Their ability to hide has not been, and really what we're seeing from the Oni is he's not been very thorough at checking these edges. Knowing people are going to hide, he's still kind of just glossing by some of these locations.
Yeah, just been doing some very cursory checks of the area around these gens. He does find the Meg, the sprint burst comes out, but I think he might have a bit of a... I think this should be a pretty safe down. Yeah, clipping her right in the toe with the top of that attack hitbox as she climbs the ramp.
Yeah, that's a really good down for the Oni, but he's not out of the woods. 4th gen is going to be
saw
done
Quentin there
very soon.
Locker? No. Yes, but jumping out.
Good job on the down there.
And see, now we're back at that 2 down
stage. Yep.
We're back at that 2 down situation where you have to have 2 people on the ground, someone's got to pick up, one's going to end up on the hook, and you can only have 1 survivor doing gens.
Yeah, things are getting a little bit dicey. 65% on the 5th gen, and then it'll be sort of just Noed really for him. It's not a great spot to be in.
Recognizing the direction the Kate was going to come from for the unhook because of the gen getting finished across the map.
Potentially here, Kate actually just playing maybe a little bit to try to pull him away from the gen that is at 75, trying to get that sort of aggro, but he says, I'm not falling for that.
Yeah, no, and at this point, that's going to be Pop Goes the Weasel being used on this gen, taking away a good chunk of that progress.
Yeah, we are seeing, if we look at the gen or the hook spread, we're seeing 4 total hooks, but really only Nia being at risk for dying is going to be a really tough spot. We see Quentin body blocking there, trying to get a swing and a miss here.
Yeah, very confident that he's safe between most likely a borrowed time, almost definitely an unbreakable DS. He has enough tools that he's not afraid of an Oni. I mean, realistically, he has nothing to fear. He's safe.
Really good job breaking off here. He's going to try to get this down on the survivor, who he's pretty much just beat up most of this match and not actually been able to hook.
Yeah, but here just not forcing... Oh,
good
wow.
job.
Not getting in the locker quite early enough and go... I mean, the Meg was going down regardless. Maybe she can hope to waste another second or so while the killer, swings at the locker. She jumps out and he hits her, whatever shenanigans may happen in between. But also recognizing that the survivors have not continued working on that gen that they've been fighting over. That's a lot of blood.
Yeah, that is a lot of blood orbs there. Using the Pop Goes the Weasel on the gen that everybody's flexed over to, understanding that Meg was by herself on the gen by the construction site over there, and trying to make something happen over here, trying to just delay what seems to be...
Ooh, good read. Faking right, going left. Catching the Quentin as he's trying to play safe and turning that safe play into the danger itself.
Oh, man. Let's see what happens here. Quentin going down. Nobody going for the unhook yet.
Not the Z-Wall Infinite. How dare you?
Oh, wow. And actually the Kate making it through the other side. That's actually something that those feel like guaranteed downs often when they're out the windows. Is this going to be a potential hit here? And that is a down on the Nia, and this is going to be a confirmed kill if they choose to pick this up.
Yeah, and see, this is what I was talking about, right? The snowball happens slowly. It comes and goes in waves, but you get if you can consistently get 2 downs as Oni, start to chew through some of those resources, force those survivors to take that time healing, let that blood flow, then you can really start to make something happen as you get later in the game, as you're able to take those health states a little bit faster and a little bit more consistently than the survivors can generate them back. But that's the last gen finished.
Yeah, really interesting of the Oni to not assume the Meg would go back to the gen she's previously worked on, knowing it was at about 80% and that he'd never kicked it yet. He chose to use Pop Goes the Weasel on the gen that had about 60%, and that is going to be kind of the fatal mistake. I think he could have extended this longer and gotten maybe 2 additional kills, but this is going to be a tough one. Down
the
there,
speed boost from Noed coming in clutch, that 4%. It can make a big difference.
He's going to use that as bait, knowing he slugged her before, and he's going to try to get to that door before it can get opened.
I think Quentin gets it in time, but just barely.
Yeah, I mean, Quentin's going to have to try to squeeze through the opening in the door, and that's the hard part, and that's a whiff.
The dodge! He's just going to walk right on out.
Really good job from Quentin confirming that extra point for his team, and that is going to already throw, going into the second set here, the entire sort of dynamic off. Rarity is only going to be able to confirm at most 2 right now.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a 2K. I think we're going to see a little bit of...
a disconnect maybe.
yeah, maybe a little bit of latency happening here. Our Oni just having some quality time with the wall at the edge of the map.
Yeah, those textures aren't smushed for no reason.
Yeah, I mean, you know, those walls do look pretty tasty. I've definitely seen people spending a lot of time there in my games.
There we go. Seems like
I think he's back with us.
Reconnected. He's trying his best here, but I mean, he still does have to confirm the survivor. If that doesn't happen because of network connection issues, then we might see that he ends up giving Hatch up.
Yeah, and she has been able to crawl a decent way away. I don't know if the survivors were aware of the Hatch's location, but the thing is, both gates are open, so he kind of has to babysit both of those gates. He does find the Hatch, you know, which makes things a little bit easier for our killer, but he has to find this downed Meg, or just patrol both gates. Make sure she bleeds out somewhere, because a survivor bleeding out on the ground does count for our purposes as a kill. But I feel like he's probably just going to walk back and forth between these gates, maybe check a little bit of the surrounding area. But I don't know, there may be a world in which our this Meg can finesse and escape. But the thing is, with less than 2 minutes left on her bleed out bar, I just don't know if she has time, even if she goes straight for the gate.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, I think it would be nothing short of a miracle for her to be able to hide in the grass long enough for him to walk away and then crawl out. I mean, she's got about a minute left, and I just don't think that's going to happen. He got very, very fortunate that she kind of took the long way around, but at the end of the day, it's not going to net her anything. This is going to be interesting to see what happens. 4 a.m. is going to end up getting quite a lead going into the second set here, and I don't know. I think that Rarity has their work cut out for them.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely going to be a difficult comeback from Rarity. It's going to be it is possible. It's still very much possible, but it's going to be difficult. It's not. They do not have an easy task ahead of them.
Yeah, the point differential does not lend itself to being able to play easy on the next one. Really, the next match is going to determine how capable they are of coming up, and if the next match goes 5-0 again, that'll basically seal their fate for the duration of the tournament.
Yeah, we do see our Meg maybe just a little bit of an honor decision, deciding, you know what, no, you're not going to get to hook me. I'm bleeding out. You know, crawling sort of deeper into that corner of the map away from the gates the killer is patrolling. And I think this is maybe just like, you know, kind of sticking it to the killer maybe a little bit. But all in good fun, you know, with sportsmanship.
Yeah, so that is going to be a really commanding lead right there for 4 a.m. really coming and showing up. Really kind of one of the strongest games we've seen against an Oni. And Oni kind of dropping a few things here and there that maybe would have benefited them, you know, some strangeties and oddities and some of their behavior. But, you know, we're not out of the woods yet. Honestly, if Rarity can come back and contest with a very strong potential 4, or I'm sorry, a 3-1 or a 5-0, then they're not out of the game yet. But if 4 a.m. can get another 5, that's going to be a tough one to come back from.
Yeah, I mean, if 4 a.m. gets another 5 points in the first half of this next match, I don't think it's possible for Rarity to come back at that point.
I don't think it's possible. No, not at all. We're going to look at some highlights of this first initial set here. Really, some really good stuff coming out from the Spirit. Great game from them as they go against Rarity.
Yeah, I mean, just...
Good pallets
man.
done. Good
yeah,
pallets done.
And recognizing also the dead hard there from the Fung, knowing that the Spirit has that really enhanced movement speed, and just making absolutely sure she gets that pallet, playing it safe. We saw the body blocks coming in from the teammates to try and protect the Feng, but ultimately to no avail.
Yeah, really good job here with just getting that one survivor out and forcing this sort of hook trade scenario constantly over and over and over again. That is a holdover we've seen from sort of old school DBD on other platforms, and you know, it's good to see the strat's not necessarily dead. You do have to be able to perform at a certain level to eat that DS early enough in the match, but good stuff coming out from this Spirit from 4AM, putting Rarity in a tough position to begin with.
Yeah, and I mean, oh, that swing, those early swings are so tough to deal with as a survivor because that hitbox already being active coming around the corner means you already have to have the pallet on its way down practically by the time you see the killer.
Yeah, we do see Rarity sort of capitalizing on some good mind games and some good downs. It's everything that happened in between these demon dashes that really determined how well this match was going to go for the killer. And, you know, at the end of the day, he was able to get a lot done, but just putting his Pop Goes the Weasel in a few wrong positions and then a little bit of a delay between downs, and that's all it took.
Yeah, I mean, it really is so important when you're playing against survivors at this level to just constantly have those hooks being cycled one after the other, constantly maintaining that pressure. And then a phenomenal spin from Quentin just to that. I mean, that could have led to a 3K.
Yeah.
If the Quentin had gotten down there, that could have very well ended up in a 3K for Aroni.
Yeah, that would have made future matches a lot tougher, but you see just like an expert level spin right out of the way.
Just perfect timing.
Yeah, and realistically, I think, you know, I don't know if as the Oni, it's a tough call to make. Do you not swing there? Okay, well then maybe he gets out anyway, right? Because you do go through cooldown, then wind up again. And so, good job, Quentin. You really secured it for your team there. That could have gone differently, which would have made future matches just that much more contentious and not quite so clear. So right now, 4AM, 7 points, Rarity 2. Really, I'm not great at math, but Rarity's going to have to do a lot here to be able to even contest.
Yeah, making up a 5-point differential against a team of 4AM's caliber is not an easy task. I do not envy Rarity in this situation. They have a long road ahead of them and a very steep mountain to climb.
I mean, realistically, say we go into the next match, Rarity kills, they get a 5-0. That still puts it 7-7. They still have to contest really well on that second match. There's no way for them to just sort of blot out the sun on this one. 4AM, really good lead to start with. They're going to have to play in a way that is not them at this point.
Yeah, I mean, Rarity is really going to need to kick it up a notch going into this second match if they want to make this comeback. But I mean, we have to hand it to 4AM. They've been playing phenomenally so far in this series. Across this match one, they did just an absolutely fantastic job on both sides. And so they've definitely earned those 7 points. Again, Rarity, best of luck in this next game. You're going to need it.
Yeah, I think this is something we're going to see. Of course, we're seeing more bans come out. Could be potential Spirit, could be potential Oni. Right now, I don't think 4AM is feeling a ton of pressure, but I think they might ban those sort of insta-down killers just to get that off the table. Because even against a fairly decent Spirit, you could waste enough time in one chase just to change the entire dynamic of that match. So be interested to see what the killer bans are. We are waiting for the map to also be selected. And so there's a lot of variables that are still at play right now in terms of what could happen. You know, we saw Wrecker's Yard and Rotten Fields in the prior set. We're seeing Wrecker's Yard here. Nothing's off the table in terms of maps. Except Haddonfield, I think.
I mean, we did almost see Haddonfield last weekend. I mean, we didn't end up playing that match out, but there is a universe in which we saw competitive Haddonfield.
There's a reason we call it Had No Fun. Realistically, going into this next one, I would expect probably a Blood Lodge.
Yeah, Blood Lodge seems likely. That's been the other sort of favored pick.
Yeah, Blood Lodge or Abattoir, just giving those survivors the one-up here.
Oh!
But you know what? I'm
so
excited.
Much for what we know.
Yeah, you know what? I do it on purpose at this point, right? So we do have confirmation. We are going into the next match going on Coal Tower. If you remember yesterday, Coal Tower, we had a Hag match on there that did not play out in that Hag's favor, but generally Coal Tower is deemed as a fairly good map for competitive, good map for scrims, balanced in its size and in its layout and seating. So
yeah, I mean, I am very curious to see the bans and picks that come through here. Because I think one of the things that makes Coal Tower really interesting map too is the fact that it is one of the smaller maps in the game, which is one of those things that does lend to its balance. Maps on the whole tending to be a bit bigger than, you know, maybe fairness would indicate. You know, but at the same time, that smaller map does lead to a higher density of those resources, right? You're more likely to have those double pallet tiles. You're more likely to have tiles connected into fillers. But at the same time, a higher mobility killer, that mobility is amplified by the small size of the map. Like, whereas on something larger like Blood Lodge, an Oni might be able to go back and forth twice, maybe 3 times. On Coal Tower, he could do 4 or 5 rotations of the map.
Yeah, this is really interesting to see. Again, Coal Tower, potential there for it to actually be, and we are getting confirmation actually right now, Billy and Spirit, mimicking what we saw last time in the last sort of series, Billy and Spirit both being banned for both sides. So that is going to force this to be more of an Oni v Oni, or again, if 4AM is feeling confident enough, this is where we could see maybe a dominant Hag, maybe a dominant Wraith.
Maybe a Nurse, because Nurse is still on the table. We haven't seen them often, but I mean, I would love to see, like, we've seen really the performances we've seen from Nurses have been very interesting, because the theme that we've seen has been a very, very dominant early game, but then that pressure just evaporates sometime in the mid to late game. That just, there's like one missed set of blinks, you know, one like missed swing on someone trying to unhook,
or just checking the wrong gen.
Yeah, and just everything falls apart, your pressure evaporates, and then the survivors are able to power through those last couple gens.
Yeah, I think Nurse is a mechanically demanding killer, more so on this mobile platform. So I think going into this, I mean, we talked about Coal Tower, we talked about its density. It could have LT walls, but there's a high chance that we see multiple jungle gems that have double pallets. Again, that sort of holdover from a very old version of this game. And so what that sort of means going into this is we're going to be looking at a killer that circumvents those resources, right? Nurse is not off the table, and Oni has to chew through them, right? So that's
but he does a much better job at that than a lot of the slower killers. Like, for example, the Wraith, if we don't see, for example, Shadow Dance coming out in the add-ons, then, you know, we've seen a few of those Wraiths, and they all have that same issue where it's just pallets, pallets, pallets. The survivors play safe. They drop the pallets early. They take maybe 1 rotation, but as soon as there's any risk of getting hit, just drop the pallet. And then, I mean, what's a Wraith going to do? He's a 4.6 killer.
Yeah, I think this is a potential where we see a killer that's maybe a bit different. Projectile Plague, again, I'm saying this would not be a bad pick. Coal Tower is not a bad Plague pick. It would be the odd pick, and 4AM having the lead they have, it wouldn't be too crazy. It'd be wild, but if you put on a good enough show, we forgive you for it. So I think realistically, I think the safety pick Nurse Oni. If we see something wilder, the problem here again, we're seeing density. Oni is going to be a lot tougher to get that first power if people are not mind gamed easily, and you know, 4AM's been good. Rarity is not bad, but they have proven that they can be mind gamed against pretty well. So it's going to be tough. We're going to see going into this, the picks are going to have to be definitive. They're going to have to be pretty decisive. I don't know. Yeah,
I mean, assuming we do see that Oni come out, which I think is likely, considering that Billy and Spirit are both off the table. Rarity's early game is going to be so crucial in this match. If you can prevent that first power usage until you have like 3-4 gens done, then you're not necessarily in the clear, but you've set yourself up really well for that late game.
You're mostly in the clear.
Yeah, because the thing is, if we want to sort of bring ourselves to a level playing field for like the second half of match 2 or potentially a match 3, Rarity needs to make up a 5-point differential here. So they would need to get either 4 people out. They would need 3 or 4 out, effectively, to sort of even things up for the second half of this match 2.
Yeah, that's really what they're looking at, is really maximizing, and that means that you cannot afford to drop even a single person. And I think our 4AM team knows that. They are having confirmed that they are picking the Nurse. Kind of something we talked about is really the high potential here. And we've seen this Nurse before. They are not a bad Nurse player. They're very capable. This is a smaller map. Range add-ons would be particularly potent here. So interested to see kind of what comes out and what happens. Rarity is going to have to answer with incredible decisiveness and organization. One moment of disorganization is going to spell the end for them.
Yeah, I mean, I am very much expecting, the good old... Oh, actually, no Corrupt, interestingly enough, actually. I saw No Way Out, and for a second I was like, oh yeah, that's Corrupt. No, it's not.
Yeah, I think on Cold Tower, being able to patrol so quickly that maybe Corrupt ends up being more of a hindrance than a boon, knowing that people might ruin tap or that you can get that early info fast.
Yeah, and that's also, that looks like green recharge to me. And so I'm assuming purple range and green recharge for the add-ons. That's sort of the standard we've been seeing. And doing a great job of sort of patrolling in this early game. Oh, a missed hit from the height difference as the Fung drops down.
Really good job from the nurse here. Pushing back towards the middle, though, might disrupt other survivors if they're not careful. It's going to be a good hit, though.
Yeah, I wonder if she's going to commit to this chase or if she's going to try and play for ruin value. I think with the resources available, yeah, you blink to that far corner, then confirm the hit. And then, oh, wait. Ooh,
wow.
The Dead Hard coming out.
Great Dead Hard from Rarity.
Yeah, phenomenal prediction from the nurse, but the reactive, nearly frame-perfect Dead Hard coming out from Fung. This should be a hit. Yeah, there it is.
Really good job. Nothing
but
to do with
the thing is, the survivors are going to be able to get 1, potentially 2 gens done for this first chase, and Ruin is off the board.
Yeah, Ruin being off the board, this is really going to come down to Pop and No Way Out. And really, I think this is going to be 1 gen done, the other gen potentially interrupted. Yeah, this could be a Pop. Ooh,
no, that gen
that is the gen.
That's going to be 2 because the other gen is at 90% and climbing.
This is where Nurse begins to excel, though. Being able to get into another chase so fast means that there are going to be 3 people really busy.
Interesting stopping to... Wow, that blink range on the second blink is unbelievable.
Yeah, stopping to heal from the Dwight in the middle of nowhere, bit dicey, bit interesting.
A very bold decision. I also find it interesting that instead of committing to that down, she's going to go pressure those 2 survivors and try and get this Fung out of the match as soon as possible.
Yeah, I think this objectively might be the worst decision. Fung could have decisive strike, which means you're having to take 2 chases here against, where you would have just chased Dwight the once.
Yeah,
Dwight.
But I mean, if you can get another down as quick as this one, that decisive strike is not too much of an issue.
Yeah.
Like, you could potentially even get her with 1 blink because you do spend a good bit of time in that sort of stun getting off the killer's shoulder.
The misdirection.
That missed blink, but good discipline from the nurse to not burn her second blink and to instead save that resource. This is, that's another
really
hit there.
Good drop there.
No
there
Dead Hard coming out.
3 gens done, 1 at 33%. Pop having had no value seen yet. The nurse is actually at a much larger deficit than what we saw from our Oni.
Yeah, but the thing is, as the game goes on and the number of objectives shrinks for this that are available for the survivors, Pop's value increases exponentially as the game goes on. And especially if she's able to secure something of a 3-gen with the incredible range she has on these blinks. Oh, yeah, here it comes.
Oh, hitting the tree there, unfortunately. Having to go through the fatigue now and then having to try to catch back up and
and not burning the Fung not burning the Dead Hard because she does have the endurance from the borrowed time.
We're going to see that down. No decisive strike. That is going to be a confirmed kill here for 4 a.m.
Yeah, but our nurse is trading her 4th gen for this kill.
Yeah, this is definitely dicey. Like I said, I think I maybe would have stuck to the Dwight, came back to the Fung later, but I mean, ultimately, with no Corrupt, it's just these survivors know against a nurse on a Cold Tower, they have to move, they have to be on these gens.
Yeah, but at this point, if she's able to hook all of the other survivors once, she does still have No Way Out Noah, that very potent combo in her back pocket for the late game.
Yeah, and this is the big thing, is if survivors choose to go after totems now, that is going to be big slowdown for them. Wow, really good job. The Dwight just exposing himself there just a little bit.
Just seeing a little bit of the Dwight through those trees.
Knowing that Dwight could double back and just sort of predicting that side of it there. Really good job. Sharky going down, having a good idea of what to do, but it is a 50-50 against a nurse.
Yeah, and this is where that Pop really starts to do work because the Pop Goes the Weasel really exacerbating that sort of cycle of death that the survivors start to get themselves into.
Really good job. That's I think
she's gonna pop. Yeah, I think she has the range to just take the pop kick, and like this is what I mean, right? The survivors unable to really make any meaningful gen progress.
Ooh, wait, the short blink just barely colliding with the wall there.
Yeah, though she does know the survivor is here. Vault the window, and that's no hit.
A
very well-timed double back to get out of the range of that blink hit.
Claudette doing a really good job here. 2 people on 1 gen right now. That gen going up to about 40% right now. It might get done by the time this chase ends out.
Yeah, I mean, if the nurse lands this second set of blinks here... Oh, no, she's actually splitting off from the Claudette and going back to those survivors on the gen.
Yeah.
Smart, recognizing that that's where the pressure is coming out from the survivors.
Yeah, knowing that they stayed injured, you have to figure, like, okay, they're not healing. They could, so they must just be trying to double up on that gen. And then Sharky kind of making as much distance as he can to try to get the heal. Nia taking aggro.
Yeah, maybe just a little bit of an impulsive swing coming out there from the nurse. Yep, that's going to be a hit on the Nia. Dwight full healing with his med kit, but I don't know if I like this from the nurse. She's committing to a chase way outside of her zone of control.
Ooh.
And just another missed swing. This is tough. This is what we were talking about, where just a couple of mechanical errors can potentially let the survivors make up so much pressure.
Yeah, the big thing about the nurse is that these small obstacles like trees and things like that begin to be much more of a problem than they would with a lot of killers because you only have that window to swing in.
Yeah, and especially because so much of playing nurse at this high level is a mix of prediction and reaction, because this is going to be the last gen done. That chase just taking a little too long.
Yeah, that is 99 right there. And there we go. So now we're really going to be waiting on No Ed, No Way Out. And I think Nurse kind of understands where the No Way Out's going to be coming from. It has procced.
Yeah, though, are they aware of the No Ed? I think they probably expect it, considering they've only seen 3 perks. I think they're probably expecting that 4th perk to be No Ed. Oh, especially the Dwight there. Definitely saw that totem. But the thing is, does she? Yeah, she sees him. Okay. Well, best of luck, Dwight. The No Ed Nurse is coming for you.
Yeah, this is only going to be really delaying the inevitable. Dwight not being on Death Hook necessarily, but it being a bit risky to go for it if the nurse is even in relative location to their own totem.
Yeah, and the thing is, 4 AM being so far in the lead at this point in the series, and No Way Out just expiring now, our killer can kind of relax a little bit. They don't have to play for the 4K. They don't need to be the hero, right? No. They have that leeway where if they get a 2K, that's honestly kind of fine. Like, they could totally work with that.
Yeah, if they go to 10 here, that'll put Rarity up at 4, which means Rarity really can't do much here. Rarity even getting a 5-0 after that would put them at 9. So really the 2K would be the secure.
And, yep, there's a down on Claudette too. But the thing is, this is tough. At this point, our nurse is perfectly happy to just chill here. I mean, her win condition has effectively already been accomplished. I think maybe she's okay with like trading a couple of hooks, because she does have another hook sort of in that back corner. Or is she just going to walk Claudette to the hook and drop her? Yeah. Just guarantee that 2K. Yeah.
Yeah. Why take any risks, right? I don't want to play another match if I don't have to, right? Yeah, really good job. 4 AM here is able to potentially, I mean, there is an Unbreakable, so this actually could be the riskier play if they don't come back to predict that sort of Unbreakable pop-up.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely wouldn't be surprised to see, all right, well, a play was made. It didn't quite work out, but a play was made, and yeah, Dwight's going to die on that hook. Claudette's going on another one. Nia might take her escape, but yeah, Claudette's going in the basement. You're not getting her out of there.
Yeah, I mean, this is really going to put 4 AM in a lead that cannot be necessarily came back from. Rarity at a real big point differential here. I think confirming this will put them at 10. Rarity getting just the 1 out, putting them at 3. I mean, they can't really bounce back. Even if they get a 5-0, that's going to be basically it.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, having that 7-point differential, there is no way for Rarity to come back. Yeah, sorry, there is no way for Rarity to come back, because the maximum number of points you can earn in a single match is 5.
Yeah, so they would just be at too much of a deficit. So it really comes down to them. If they want to play the next set out, they absolutely can. That is an option present to them. But with the points being where they are, I don't think they have to. We saw that yesterday. BBB deciding, you know what, why? Why would we do this to ourselves? Yeah. And kind of calling it where it was. So we'll kind of see what the teams sort of decide there. I think we're going to have a little bit of an interesting conversation to be had there, but that means that 4 AM is actually going to move forward and go against RSK, that grudge match we were hoping for.
Yeah, we're going to be getting it.
I think we saw some really definitive movement from 4 AM today. I think there are some things for their team to tighten up and work on, especially from a survivor perspective, but their nurse even had a little bit of a sort of a flex to them. They weren't quite as rigid and on point as what you would expect.
Yeah, but I mean, all around phenomenal play from both sides. 4 a.m. just having a bit of an edge and coming out on top in that series and moving on.
Yeah, exactly. So looking at this right now, we are going to be seeing 4 a.m. moving forward, RSK tomorrow, and then we're going to be doing the sort of grands, right? We're going to be taking a look at the best of 5 on whoever moves out of losers bracket, which is really, I don't know, to me.
Yeah, I mean, a series between RSK and 4 a.m., I mean, both of those teams have been playing so phenomenally throughout this tournament. That could absolutely go either way. Like,
yeah.
I have no idea what to predict in that sort of a match.
That, and I mean, with RSK and 4 a.m. being such evenly tied against each other in terms of their capabilities and endgame, really just barely getting out in front of RSK, it's going to be a tight best of 3 that could easily, I mean, we are at least seeing 3 matches tomorrow, but I think we go for a long day tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, so for tomorrow, yeah, we're going to have that lower bracket finals and then the grand finals. So those are going to be our 2 matches for tomorrow. Lower bracket finals is going to be a best of 3, and then grands is going to be a best of 5.
Yeah.
And I mean, honestly, with the quality of play we've been seeing coming out from these teams, I would love for both of those series to go all the way.
Yeah, honestly, all the teams that are up here have earned it. I mean, they have played incredibly immaculately, and so I don't know. I'm excited to see what happens.
Yeah, so we are being told by our friends in production that Rarity has foregone their ability to play out that last sort of formality match and has, accepted the results of this series. So we are going to be ending our day here. We are going to have some highlights for you before we call it a night from this last phenomenal match. And then we will be calling it a day, resting our voices tonight, and we will be back tomorrow.
Thank you guys for being here, of course. Remember, tomorrow there are going to be giveaways in the Twitch chat. Be sure to follow at Dead by Daylight Mobile on Instagram, over there on Facebook, Twitter, etc. We're going to send it to replays, and we will talk to you guys tomorrow. Enjoy your evenings. Base there, great stuff, and that's going to be free pallet throw if he chooses to use it. Oh, this is going to be a hit here.
Yeah, just a little bit.
That is a dicey spot to do that sort of standstill mind game. Had the survivor chosen to walk away, that would have been a really tough spot. That is a free down and potential another devour hook.
At this stage, both the Kate and the Nia are dead on hook.
Oh my
and then
God,
the Dwight did manage to finish the heal just in time.
Now, we do know that the Dwight is not, he has not been hooked at all, so if he can really just keep this chase going for any amount of time, but
yeah, the tracking from our Spirit has been phenomenal. But the Dead Hard, a little bit greedy, not going to the pallet.
Oh, do we see that?
Dwight probably does not deactivate when he works on a gen, and wow, okay, Ace running.
Go back to gens over and over and over instead of really going for those hook states that are going to make the team really struggle to even work on gens to begin with.
Yeah, just recognizing that since this point, there's the Kate. Yeah, she sees her, I think. Yeah, she's just going to try and contest this on hook.
Wow, interesting strategy, I guess, here. Maybe just, again, get that hatch play, maybe set them up for something a little bit better.
Yeah, just a little bit of standing still for a moment. Oh, heard those footsteps, but lost track for just a little bit. There's the Dead Hard.
The Dead Hard, but into nothing.
Don't win that 1 out of 3, then things could get very hairy very quickly if they're not careful.
I almost felt like for a second there I saw that Claudette had Urban Evasion. I could have swore that's just...
No, in this environment, no way. I would be very surprised. I think the goal there was...
that is a ton
This is a risk. Oh, no. Oh, Haunted Ground's just expiring before that hit comes through.
No, we are going to maybe see a Dead Hard come out to evade. No? Okay, let's see. Claudette, not really worried about much.
It's definitely not. I wouldn't call it wraps just yet. Dead. But the thing is, with that central basement spawn, yes, the Meg is going to unhook the Nia, but getting out of this basement comes with a cost. Is looking to make a stealthy gate play, but the thing is, she's missing some critical information here. Well,
there it is.
He sees Nia. Oh, he sees Ace, but the sprint burst making him with the swing.
Yeah.
Nia's going to make that pallet.
You can see in other versions of the game, it's something that's typically deemed as too strong to play against from a killer perspective. Great Dead Hard to the pallet throw there. Delay that just a little bit and get an extra hit here.
Yeah, and that hit on the healthy Nia is going to give him his power. She's going to just have to drop the Shack pallet here. I expect her to play it safe.
Ooh, the delay.
Just keep playing it safe, just drop the pallet. No need to take that risk.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I think RSK, we're seeing a very, a more tight...
Other three are all four other gens, rather, are at 0.
We do see the Oni here following the Blood Orb trail. That's going to give him a little...
On the whole map, if I had to guess. Because our Oni had a bit of a slower early game, but that early game was spent getting rid of those.
Adrenalines, of course, but a 2K, a nice clean 2K if they can really secure that. No Noed in play. We saw all mid. I've started Chase, which means they know they're going to be on gens, so I need to sort of reverse engineer this for my benefit. Is this going to be a swing? And that is a down at the pallet. That's but they're going to continue to play the window.
She zoned herself into the corner here, though.
Right.
This is a pretty big mistake from Claudette. She's going to go down.
Yeah, this is kind of what we tile back there. That is
maybe a little bit of a fake out here on the ace, too, making him think that he was going to switch targets, but instead sticking around. Unbreakables having been used at this point in the match.
Yeah, really good job from the Claudette there using Unbreakable. We did see the Fung sort of working on the gen, not even worrying about
around for the earlier parts of this tournament that there are multiple, usually 2 to 3 Unbreakables on every team, a bunch of decisive strikes. And I is going to want to focus out this Nia, that first hook, just to get into that early game 3v1 as quickly as possible. I'm expecting an early pallet throw here, but I wonder how well this will work. We'll see, because our killer is sort of committing a lot of time to this chase, and this could potentially cause some problems, because we're seeing
Ace knowing that their gens are really on the other side of the map. I think there's a confidence that they can close this out, and they do a little bit left on the med kit there.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, the big thing is if a survivor is being carried, then you know that you are more likely to go get them. It doesn't matter too much. That's wasted time. They just got to see if they can get these gens done.
Yeah, because that 16 seconds you spend healing is about 20 seconds of potential.
So close. That was to the last second there.
Yeah. Oh, the Iron Will buying the Claudette just a fraction of a second to, well, try and unhook Dwight. Sprint Burst.
Yeah, that Sprint Burst is going to deny that. But again, with the just like, and he's going to go back to the hook right now, it looks like, which is likely to have at least 2 people near.
Maybe a little fake out.
Really good job getting the second down here.
Break it by accident.
Now the Oni not choosing to pick up there, knowing that like that individual survivor has not been actually
the down at a dropped pallet like that.
This is going to be precocious here. Can he get the down? Good call out.
Ooh, yeah. Itself.
Oh man, let's see what happens here. Quentin going down. Nobody going for the unhook yet.
Not the Z-Wall Infinite. How dare you?
Mistake. I think he could have extended this longer and gotten maybe 2 additional kills. But this is going to be a tough one. A down
the
there.
Speed boost from Noah barely.
Yeah, I mean Quentin's going to have to try to squeeze through the opening in the door, and that's the hard part. And that's a whiff.
The dodge. He's just going to walk right on out.
This is going to be 1 gen done. The other gen potentially interrupted. Yeah, this could be a pop. Ooh,
no, that gen
is the
finished.
gen.
That's going to be 2 because the other gen is at plan from the nurse to not burn her second blink and to instead save that resource. This is, yeah, that's another
really
hit there.
Good drop there.
No dead hard coming out.
Good job. The Dwight just exposing himself there just a little bit.
Just seeing a little bit of the Dwight through those trees.
Yeah, well, Dwight not being on death hook necessarily, but it being a bit risky to go for it.